Let me feel your love again.
Yo, what is going on, Papa Fam? Welcome back to the channel. It's good to be back. We've got a banger of a build today. Microsoft collab here in the house. We've got Siri 2.0. If you guys are excited for this is an AI chat assistant, and we've got so much good tech in. I'm gonna wait for everyone to come in, start dropping where you're watching from right now as I go through the tech stack. Before I show you a live demo, Next.js 14, Azure OpenAI, Whisper speech recognition, MediaStream to record the audio, web speech to synthesize the audio out. So much madness is happening in today's video, and I'm bringing it to all you guys for absolutely free. So get ready. When this beat drops, I'm going to show you a nice, beautiful demo of this app in action, and then we're going to build it from scratch. I can see everyone tuning in right now. What's going on, guys? It's good to be back on your screens again. This is the Siri 2.0 clone. Enjoy the build, guys. Check this out. Wait for it. All right, here we go, guys. Look at this. Boom. Siri 2.0, fully responsive. Oh, okay. My Siri's kicking in now. I have to be careful with that. That's completely like, 1 minute. That's so annoying. Okay. We've got the S 2.0 build. I'm going to call it that. Where is my audio now? Okay. That's funny. There we go. We're back. So let's go ahead and hit the S button right now. I'm going to make sure I don't say it out loud. But if I go ahead and say, oops, let me go refresh this one. So let's go ahead and say something. Let's try it out. Let's say, what's the weather like in the United States? Check this out, guys. So right now, look, pretty cool. So it hasn't got real-time information, but let's go ahead and say, who is the current president of the United States? I'll tell you what I'll do, actually. Let me go ahead and pull the audio through the computer right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my audio through the my roadcaster. Now you guys can hear it. Okay, let's go ahead and give it another try. Let's check it out. All right, so who was the first president of the United States? Check this out. There you go. It
was George Washington.
Okay, now you can hear it. All right, let's do the demo again, right? Fresh start. This is what demos are about. You know I'm live right now, so smash that like button. All right, who was the first president of the United States? Look at this, guys. Check it out. Wait for it. Wait for it. Right now, it's actually transcribing the audio from Whisper AI, and then it's going ahead and pushing that through to OpenAI using the Azure service. Sometimes it's lagging,
but the first president of the United States was George Washington.
It's pretty sick, guys. It's pretty sick. It works, right? And let's go ahead and change the voice. So we can go ahead and click our settings cog here. I'm going to go in the drop down, and let's see, I've got a bunch of different, like, look how many voices we have, right? So I'm going to go ahead and choose, like, let's say Google UK English to see if it sounds like me, right? Let's check this one out. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can even change the pitch, the speed. Let's make the speed a little bit quicker. Let's move our settings down, and let's go ahead and do something else, right? So let's go ahead and say something like, tell me a funny joke. Wait for it.
Sure. Here's a joke for you. Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything.
There you go, guys. Look, fully functional Siri, right? Oh, don't say the word, because all my computers and my devices are going to go crazy. All right, let's try it one more time, and then we're going to go ahead. What is reactjs?
reactjs is an open-source JavaScript library used for building user interfaces for web applications.
While it's telling us that, I'll show you.
It was developed by Facebook and is widely adopted by many companies and developers. React.js follows a component-based architecture.
Right, I'm gonna bring the audio down so I can carry on telling you about it. But absolutely cool, guys. So you guys are gonna go ahead and build all of this today. This is absolutely awesome, and I think I need to break it down properly so you understand what is actually going on in this build. Firstly, I want to go ahead and shout everyone out. So let me know where you're watching from right now. We've got over 100 viewers already in the chat. That is absolute fire. I'm going to go ahead and bring some music back so we can have a bit of fun. And yeah, that was funny. That was actually pretty funny. So let's jump straight back into it, guys. So this is a collaboration with Microsoft. Your boy has gone ahead and built out a full functioning AI assistant clone. I'm going to prevent saying the S word because it's making everyone's device go crazy right now. But here's what we do, guys. We basically got Whisper AI. So this is essentially a service from OpenAI. It's a model which essentially allows us to have text to speech, but at such a accurate level. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and use this Whisper AI. Then we're going to go ahead and use Azure's OpenAI. And we're going to go ahead and combine it all together with Next.js 14 to go ahead and build this beautiful app. Right now, we're going to synthesize the voice. That's the one that you are hearing right now. But I'm going to show you how it all works in action. But your boys went one step further and giving you all the code for absolutely free. So the main thing that I want you to do right now, so you get all of the code for free, first link in the description, hit that. You're going to hit this form. Okay, simply put in your details. So I'm going to say Sunny Sanga, pop in your email. I'm going to send you mine right now. And you guys can do the same thing. You have to submit this form. I'm just gonna say UK. And then if you have got a company, otherwise just put your name. I can say Papa Fam here. And then you can tick this if you would like to. I'm gonna click submit. Once you're through on this screen, you'll basically get access to everything that you need. The GitHub code repo will take you straight through to the actual code base. You have all of the code for absolutely free. Okay, so I'm giving it away for free this time, so you guys can go ahead and actually code along. So I want you to do that right now. I'm adding the comments that I've gone ahead and submitted that form. So get that code for absolutely free. And then you can join our course if you want to as well. If you want to, if you get a bit stuck and you want to get that one-on-one mentorship style experience, you can go ahead and check out the 0 to Full Stack Hero course down below. That's my course. That's what we go ahead and level up our teaching. Okay. So this is the code that I want you to go ahead and get, and you can go ahead and code along with me. Now I'm going to go ahead and shout everyone out. We've got Utah in the house. We've got UK, London. What's up, guys? We've got Abu Dhabi in the house. We've got Nigeria, Malawi, UK, Bangladesh, Uganda. That's what I'm talking about, guys. We've got Africa, Australia, Sweden, India, Baltimore, Germany. Yo, this is what I'm saying. Welcome back, guys. Sri Lanka as well in the house. Smash that like button if you're excited for today's build, because it's going to be a mad one. And I'm going to go ahead and break it down, the tech stack, okay? So essentially what we have, let's go ahead and call it the, I'm going to type it out because I don't want it to freak out again. We got Siri 2.0. Okay, so I'm not going to say the word because it triggers off all the devices, but we've got our AI assistant, right? 2.0. Now, what we have is we have some voice. So this is me. So my voice, I speak, right? Now, when I speak, it's going to go and feed into the, okay, that is the most horrible arrow I've ever done. So we're going to go ahead and feed this into the Whisper AI model, okay? Now, what this will do is it will change the voice into text, okay? Oops, text. Okay, text, yeah. So we've got our Whisper AI. This will change it into text. Now, once we've got our text, we're going to go ahead and push the text into Azure's OpenAI GPT, right? So we basically have our voice. Whisper AI is going to go ahead and transcribe our speech into text at a really accurate, crazy level. Honestly, it's impressive. And then we're going to go ahead and make it that text be an input into our Azure OpenAI GPT, and that is going to go ahead and give us the response. So the AI assistant response. Okay, so this will be our response. So we're going to go ahead and build all of this today. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is all absolutely scalable. So this is production ready. So everything is powered by Azure here. So we've got Azure's Whisper AI model and we've got Azure's OpenAI GPT service. So honestly, when I tell you this is ready to go, it's ready to deploy, it's absolutely one of the coolest projects that you'll probably do this year. So I highly recommend you give this a try. And I'm going to go ahead and break it down just like this, right? So people ask me how I'm doing. Thank you so much. I'm doing awesome. Just smash that like button if you're enjoying this stream. We're going to go jump straight into it. So let's jump into the tech stack again. So we've got the Whisper AI, right? Absolutely awesome stuff. We've got OpenAI service from Azure. So this allows us to have a scalable solution to implementing OpenAI's GPT service and completions. And then we're going to go ahead and show you how to implement everything. And as I mentioned before, guys, all of the code is available in the first link in the description. So all you got to do, first thing in the description, this is a collaboration with Microsoft. Your boy is leveling up. It's absolutely awesome. Saurabh says, are you live or are you recorded? So there you go. There you go. Right. We're live. It's all good. And we're ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and get started off right now. I'm going to change the music a little bit. And I'm actually going to go ahead and play on Jay's playlist because I don't know if you guys remember, some of you OGs will know that Jay's playlist is banging. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring his on right now. So somebody says, is the reason for building on Azure just to get GPT? It would be very cool to try it with Vercel services. So the reason why we're doing it on Azure is because Azure is a scalable platform, right? It allows us to really go ahead and scale up, and we can go ahead and tap into any other Azure service that we want to. And the main thing here is I'm teaching you how to go ahead and get started with Azure. And plus, guys, if you hit that first link in the description, one, you get all of the code for absolutely free. In addition, you get popular services from Azure for free for 12 months. And on top of that, your boys hooked you up, so you get $200 US dollars worth of Azure credit to go ahead and use. So, I mean, literally you get all of that for hitting the first link in the description and putting in those details. So hit that link, do what you gotta do, smash that like button, and let's get started. Frank, what's good? He goes, let's go, can't wait for this build. That's what I'm talking about, guys. This is what we're gonna build right now. Fully mobile responsive, and it's beautiful. And it has voice synthesis, everything. It speaks to us like normal Siri. Oh, okay, don't do that again. I was close to triggering it off. I'm gonna give it one more little preview before I get started so you guys can get a little sample if you missed it, but we're gonna go ahead and say something like, what is programming? You can see we've even got this nice little effect here. And look at that. And then the voice I've muted out, but it would have gone ahead and said programming is this process, blah, blah, blah. But I've gone ahead and actually shut that off. But what we would actually do is it'll talk back to us. Right? So we can actually go ahead and select the voice alongside with loads. All of these are options for the voice, by the way. So you're going to learn how to build all of this right now. So we're going to jump straight into it. We're so close to smashing 100 likes. Just destroy that like button and let's keep on going. All right. Jay's cracking me up. Okay. I just hit pre-workout and now I think it's slapping. All right. We're going to go ahead and open up our Warp terminal. So to get started, and I want you to go ahead, and I like to start up my projects inside of the documents builds directory, okay? And then we're gonna type in npx create next app. And here you can honestly put whatever you want. Now I go ahead and get started off with something which makes sense, obviously. So this one is going to be called, let's go ahead and say YouTube AI Assistant Build, okay? And get started with that. Now this will be create next app, gives us a nice starter template to go ahead and get started off with things. Now as this is happening, just click on yes for all the defaults, enter. And I want to answer a couple questions in the meantime. Somebody says, do you think AI will take our jobs? No, no, no. Stop thinking like that. Just learn how to code. Don't worry about all of that, all right? If you know your knowledge in code, you'll know that that is not a threat right now, okay? So we're all good. Don't worry about it. Anyone who's telling you otherwise, just silence them. Just focus on your lane, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into it. So cd YouTube AI Assistant Build, and then we're gonna hit code dot to open up our code editor. So now we're inside. And if you guys missed these streams, let me know in the chat right now, and I'll be sure to keep them coming. So we're gonna bring this open and get your workstation prepped. I hate a messy workstation, so let's go ahead and pop this open here. So I've got my code editor over here. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger for you guys so you guys can go ahead and see a lot easier. Now, inside of Next.js 12, we've got this starter template. So we're gonna go ahead and spin this up. I'm gonna cut my old app, click on output, close this, close that, open up the terminal, Command B to shut the sidebar, and we're gonna do npm run dev, okay? Now, once this is happening, it'll spin up on our localhost 3000. Simply go ahead and click that, and it will open up in what we need. So I'm gonna actually pull that up in a separate screen and move that over here. So we're gonna go ahead and say localhost 3000, and some of the music's good. This is okay, all right? So in this case, we should get this screen. So if you're here right now, amazing stuff, okay? Then we're gonna go ahead and Command J, pull that down. I'm gonna clear everything out so we get a nice clean starting template, okay? There we go, boom. Right, and we're just gonna type in H1, let's build an AI assistant. I'm not gonna say the magic word, but it's this, okay? There we go, and hit save, close that off. And what we should see here is a centered div, right? So that's it, that's the tutorial done, right? A lot of you can't center a div, that's how you do it, okay? Somebody says, why are we using the page router? I just came now. So we're not using the page router because the pages router is the old way of routing from Next.js 12. Next.js 13 onwards is now using the app directory for routing, right? So if you need a little refresh on that, you can check out my Next.js tutorial on the channel. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and remove all of this styling as well. Keep it nice and clean. Okay, so once you get to this point, that's great. Okay, now I don't know why that's a little bit over, that's a bit annoying. But at this point, what I like to do is, if you've seen any of my builds, I like to kind of draft out what we're gonna plan on building. So I'm gonna run my app on the other screen and show this. So somebody's asking for a video on Next.js with Firebase. Yes, we have got lots of credentials videos coming out shortly, so I will show you that soon. I'm gonna open up a localhost 3001 and show you the actual app that's running, and we'll show you what I wanna be doing. So first things first is we have at the top, there we go. First things first, at the top, we have our header. Okay, so eventually we're gonna have a header. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop in a header. Then we're gonna go ahead and have a form. Okay, now this form essentially is gonna be for this button. And this button essentially is gonna have inside of it, we're gonna be rendering. So imagine this is gonna be a form. So I'm gonna hide this right now and show you. So this right here is actually going to be our form. Okay, and we are using, by the way, guys, we're using server actions today. So you're going to learn all about server components, client components, and how to leverage the brand new server actions to prevent us from making an external API request. It's just a lot easier in the way that we can work, and it keeps everything a lot more simple. But you're going to learn how to do that today in a correct fashion, and how we can tie into some pretty cool React hooks to make sure that we get an update on the screen, right? So it's a single round trip approach. It's actually pretty cool. Okay. So at this point, somebody says, can I see it recorded after this? Yes, you can. Everything's going to be up on the channel afterwards. I'm going to go back to my OG playlist because right now this is like super slow. I think this might be a different, we might have updated it. Okay, right. So at this point, this is going to be the form, and then we're going to have our messages being rendered out here. So this is eventually going to represent the messages. And then we're going to have actually a few little tricks up our sleeve, like hidden buttons, hidden input fields for selecting the file that's going to get uploaded. And then we're actually going to have our recorder. So this is actually going to be the recorder itself. So this right here is going to be our audio recorder, and it's going to switch state based on, so you want to click it, see how it activates, and then we close it off. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and do all of that. And then we're going to have a voice synthesizer. Now, on top of all of that, we're going to have a nice little settings button. So I'm going to show you how to do all of this. Now, this is going to leverage a bunch of different things inside of React Next.js. So it's going to help you out in so many different ways. Trust me, it's worth sticking around for this one. Okay. So first things first, let's build this header. So going over to our app, I'm going to go ahead and use the correct SEO components. So we've got our header at the top. Now I'm going to just simply pop in an image. So we're going to go ahead and pop in an image tag. Oops. Capital I, image tag. There we go. And inside of Next.js, it's worth mentioning that you need to provide a couple of things. So we need the source width and height as minimum requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in right here. So we've got our source width and height, and then we've got the height, and I'm just going to say 50, it's very small, and the width of 50 as well. Okay, now you're going to get an error at this point, because when we use Next.js's image component, what actually happens is you need to whitelist the domains that the images are coming from, because Next.js likes to do a bit of image optimization underneath the hood when you're deploying to Vercel. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. So the simplest way is you actually click on this little error message here where it says see more info, click that. And it will take you to a link, and it will give you a nice code example. And the reason why I say this is because it has changed in the past, so it's always good to get the most up-to-date information. So click this. I can see people dropping Papa Fam, what's up guys in the chat. So go ahead and type in next config. So I do Command P to get that little menu, or you can simply go into this file here. Now, once you're inside the configuration menu, I want you to simply copy this image slab, so copy that, and you've got remote patterns. Now we don't need the port and path name, you can get rid of those. What we care about is this, the host name and the HTTPS. So if we go back over to our code, we can close that off. I want you now to, if we just refresh, you see here it says the hostname i.imgur.com. We're going to go ahead and simply make that whitelisted. So if we hit save now, guys, 5 more likes, we already break the 100 mark. Smash that like button if you're enjoying what the content that you see on the screen right now. So hit that, save, and then what we can see is if we hit a refresh, Next.js should now actually restart our server, and you can see now I get a nice little Papa Fam logo at the top, right? So that's perfect, that's what we wanted. And then we can go ahead and actually, why is this not saving? Let's see what's going on. It says, oh, I need an alt. Okay, so in this case, we can put our alt. And here I'm just going to say logo, simple as, right? So we have the logo there. Now, if you're not getting, we are using Tailwind CSS out of the box for this. So one thing I would say is make sure in your extensions, you type in Tailwind CSS. And what you can find is you should see a Tailwind CSS IntelliSense plugin. I want you to go ahead and click install on this and make sure you've got this. It allows us to have autocomplete. It's going to make your life a lot simpler, right? So once you've done that, we've got our image up. That's a good little start. And then this is a bit annoying. Why is that only? Oh, okay, so that must be a Chrome thing. So I'm going to pop that actually over here for a second, and then pop that there. Okay, bit annoying, but it's okay. So at this point, we're going to have the settings icon on this side. Right, so we are going to be using Shadcn, but we're not going to be using much of the component library. We're just going to be using a few things like the logos, but I'm going to set you up in case you want to go ahead and extend afterwards with Shadcn. So to install Shadcn, simply go to Shadcn's website, head to the top, installation, Next.js, and we've already done this first step. We're going to simply run the CLI command to get things started. npx Shadcn latest init. All right, so I'm going to simply pop this into my app right now. And what I like to do is I like to split my terminals. On my left side, I have my server running, and on the right side, boom. right? Just smashed over 100 likes, guys. That's what I'm talking about. You guys love this content. I can see it. More people are tuning in as well. We've got 200 across different platforms. That's what I'm saying, right? Go ahead and hit the couple of the defaults. I'm not too fussed at this point for this. And then just make sure your app is running at this point, right? So I would likely go ahead and Command J, hide that. Simply go back to our app and do a refresh, and you'll see the background color, for example, changed, okay? So this is a good starting point. Now what I want to do is get rid of this header. We don't really care about that. I simply want to have a settings icon on the right. Now, when you install Shadcn, by default, it installs something called the Lucid icon library, right? So what we actually want to do here is we want something from the Lucid React library. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it out here. And we're going to pop it in like this. So if somebody says, how are you, man? I'm doing good. Thank you very much for asking. All right, so we're going to get the settings icon. So for the settings icon, all we got to do is pop it down here. So we're going to say settings icon, self-close it, and I'm going to pop it on the screen. I'm going to keep hitting save as I do it. And right now you can't see anything. Oh, you can see a little setting icon there, but I'm going to make it a bit clearer. So that settings icon, we're going to say it's a size of 40. So size of 40, hit save. And then we're going to say class name, and we're going to style it out accordingly, right? So first things first, give it a little bit of padding, margin 2. I want this to actually have a nice little rounded border. So I'm going to say rounded 4. I want a nice little circle. When I hover over it, I want it to be a cursor pointer, okay? And then I want it to be a background purple. And that little plugin that we installed earlier allows us to actually have a nice bit of autocomplete. So you see if I do that, we get this nice little purple. And I've got a bit of more styling under my sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it in right now. There you go. So text black. And then this allows us to have a nice little transition when we do any sort of, right now I'm applying the transitions to all. So there's going to be a little like animation when, for example, I hover over it and it changes color to background purple 700. So at this point you can see that, very nice. Changes, very subtle changes, but it makes such a difference with your UI, right? So this is awesome so far. We've got it looking kind of cool. And eventually you see it's going to fit on this screen. So we're eventually going to get to this UI, right? Now for the header, I'm just simply going to make it a flex header. I'm going to do a justify between, like so. And that will spread it out. And then I want this to actually be a fixed header. So typically I stay away from fixed, but in this instance, it's actually going to work really well. So make it a fixed header, text white, width will be full, and I want a padding of 5 so it gets away from the edge. Now you can see my image got stretched out a little bit. So to prevent that, we can simply add a class name on the image and say object contain, right? I don't know why I'm not getting my IntelliSense. Oh, actually it's because of this. So I need to reload my Tailwind. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So reload that. And because of that, I think I may have to go ahead and start my server. Okay, we didn't have to. We're good. Yeah, we're still good. So let's go back over here. Boom. If you want the Papa Fan playlist, by the way, all you got to do is sign up to the newsletter in the description. And it's worth mentioning, guys, if any of this is like, you know, feeling a bit difficult, a bit tough right now, as I mentioned before, you can join us over at 0 to Full Stack Hero. We actually have a sale on right now for St. Patrick's Day. So get yourself a little deal, save an extra 15% off the sale price, which is actually like £400 plus savings, and get yourself started with the Papa Fam, right? So check it out for yourself. Link is in the description down below, or Jay's dropping it in the chat right now. papareact.com/course. And we've got live coaching and everything good inside of there, right? So you guys will learn all of this stuff, be familiar, moving at this pace that I'm moving at. My job there is literally to coach you in and out. And I'll just recommend watch this video, make up your decision for yourself, and join us, right? Let's carry on with the build. So I want to make this background a nice little purple color. So I'm going to actually put this over here so we can get a nice little reference. So I'm going to make it this color. Now, how do we do that? Right? How do we get a nice little background gradient color? So the way that Next.js 14 works is everything is basically started off from the layout.tsx file. So the first thing is, if you notice, what I want to have eventually is this will be a fixed height screen. Now, the reason for this, somebody says, can you give me a discount for the course? Yes, there's a sale on right now. So if you can check it out and get your discount, right? So over here, I'm going to have this be a fixed height. So imagine this, the way that this screen is going to work is this is going to be a fixed height. So there's not going to be the ability to actually, this will be set in its way. So this will be a fixed height. It won't be able to grow. This will be the absolute, you know, height of the screen. And then I will have a scrollable container in here for the messages. So imagine the messages will exist here, but I'll be able to scroll in this window. Okay. I cannot scroll from this one, right? So in this case, the outer window will not be able to move, but the inner window I'll be able to scroll up and down as such. Okay, so that's how we're going to go ahead and do it. So let's do this. Somebody says, I want to, absolutely not, dude. Absolutely not. You got free content on YouTube, right? So the way we do that is we set the class name here. Oops, we set the class name. Okay, why is this is being absolutely crazy right now. Oh, okay, oops, here you go. Awesome, yeah. We're gonna go ahead and I don't care about the initial things. We're gonna say height of screen, and we're gonna say overflow hidden. Now, this will basically prevent it from having, it will never be able to go past the height of the screen. So if I try and scroll now, nothing will happen. Even if there is content down there, it will be hidden. So we're overflowing, we're hiding the overflow. All right, so at this point now, what I wanna do is I'm gonna go back to my code, destroy that like button if you guys are enjoying the content, guys. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna move on to the form, because the form is actually where the cool stuff happens. This is where we really start building out the rest of the app. So we've got our form, it will have an action attached to it. It's gonna be where we have a server action. And the first thing we're gonna have here is a div, and inside of here, we're gonna have our messages container. Okay, so this will be where we have the messages, and I'm just gonna go ahead and populate something right now just to test it out. So I'm gonna say something like, what's it called? Let's give it a little bit. So we've got some data here. I'm gonna say, tell me a funny joke. Okay, let it do this thing. There you go. I've muted it out so you can't hear it right now, but here you go. It says a little bit of a joke. That way, at least I can see some of the UI. Who was the first president of the United States?
The first president of the United States was George Washington.
Right, so in this case, this is all being pulled through that OpenAI service and everything. So I'm going to use this as like a dummy reference. So eventually, if this was to go off the screen for whatever reason, say for example here, you see how I can scroll now? That's how we're going to essentially do it, right? So let's go back onto the build. So that's where the messages is going to be, in this little block. And then after that, we're going to have two things. We're going to have an input field for a form. For a file, sorry. And this is going to be like you see here, we've got the choose file. And the reason why it's not being affected by our header right now is because the header is fixed. When your header is fixed, it will not interact as a block element. So that way it'll basically just sit there. So you have to make sure you account for the space and the differences, okay? Now, this is actually going to be a hidden file, right? So this is actually going to be a hidden selector, and we're going to reference this using something called, we're going to basically click and interact that with that through the use of references, okay? So we've got our input file, and then for now, I'll just keep it there on the screen. And then we've got a button, and this is going to be a button of type submit. And this one is going to be essentially just going to be, let's just say submit audio. But again, this is going to be a hidden button as well, right? And there's reasons for this. We can basically simulate the use of a form in different ways. So we actually don't need any of this. We can get rid of that, okay? So these are going to be our hidden fields. Let's go ahead and do that right now, hidden fields. And then underneath that, we're going to have a div. And this is essentially where we're going to have the recorder and the voice synthesizer, okay? So this will be where the recorder is and the voice synthesizer, right? Now the voice synthesizer, all it means is basically the output of the assistant voice, right? So we're basically going to go ahead and pop it out there. Germany in the house. Yo, what's good, man? The music is so tiring today. What is going on? Where is my upbeat music? Okay, this is better. I'm just going to get into a vibe with this, yeah? Because this is, like, I'm not feeling the music right now. All right. Okay, let's carry on. So somebody goes, I have a quick question, Sonny. If you are using Tailwind CSS and use breakpoints like SM, medium, LG to handle responsiveness, after configuration in the config, I don't get it to work sometimes. So I can't answer your question right now because I don't know what the actual problem is, but it does work with the breakpoints, right? I don't know how else to answer that, but I would recommend if you want some one-to-one help, check out the course and you can join us there. But someone else is in Dubai right now. What's up? Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and firstly, we have in this div, this is where, oh, sorry, not this div, in the messages div, this one is going to be where actually we derive the background color from, okay? So what I'm going to do is firstly, head to the outer main div. I'm going to give it a background. And remember, guys, all of the code, and I want you to go ahead and do this right now. Yeah, if you haven't already done this, all of the code is available in the first link in the description. So fill it out right now and drop a comment saying I've filled it out. And then go to the GitHub repo so you have all of the code. So as I'm working right now, you can simply go to the GitHub repo, hit the dot key on the keyboard, and you should get github.dev. And it will open up the editor. And so you can actually follow along with me as I'm showing it on the on the screen, right? So go ahead and do that right now and comment that you've done that. And that way you don't miss out on the free code that I'm giving out, right? So there's so much goodness in that. So just go ahead and hit that button right now. First link in the description. It'll help you guys save a ton. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make it a black background. So there you go, black background. We're gonna make this the height of the screen, like so. And then we're gonna say overflow, Y scroll. Okay, so that way if we have, overflow element, it's gonna be there. And you can even do auto if you want, and that way only will apply if it's needed. Okay, so that's that done. Now inside the form, what I want to do is I'm going to make this a flex column. So flex column, and I'm going to make this background also black, because eventually the messages is going to take over for something. Somebody goes, Sonny, are you still in Dubai? I am still in Dubai. What's up, dude? All right, now for the messages, we're going to go ahead and style this with a gradient. Now to start with gradients, firstly, if you think about what's happened here, the outer container is using up the maximum height. So in this case, if I went ahead and said something like purple 100, you can see, that's if I do like purple 500, you can see right now the whole container is being used. So what I want to do is, when we have a form, if we make it flex, by default, it's not going to use up the entire, space. So we want this div to use up the full space. So I'm going to make it flex 1. Okay, so flex 1 means use up the entirety of the space, and then I'm going to give it a gradient. So gradient, background gradient, and I'm going to say from the top to the bottom, so to B to represent to bottom. I'm going to say from purple 500, because I like that, to black. Okay, and now what we should see in a second is if this had information inside of it. So if I said P hello, what we should see is, you see there's a little bit of a gradient right now at the top, right? So once we've got everything in position, set up, this will work just like we need it to. All right, so that's the overall goal here that we're going to go for. I'll make it a little bit smaller so you guys can see. There you go, in one go, right? So we've got flex column, background black. Nice. So eventually that will be populated by the messages, and the messages will also be a flex 1, and we'll basically use up the maximum space that it can. Okay, now the next step is for the div down here. We're just preparing ourselves here. So what I want to do is at the bottom here, this layout, actually, to be fair, I'll carry on with this layout afterwards. I think right now, we need to do that because we need the recorder. So let's go ahead and do class name. And this is going to be a fixed bottom. So you see right now, even when I'm in a bigger screen, the bottom is fixed. So we're going to go ahead and do that straight off the bat. So I'm going to go ahead and say fixed bottom 0, width should be full. I'm going to say overflow should be hidden. And the reason for this is because when we have our animation here, I don't want, this actually got a black background around this. And I don't want it to go ahead and spill out if we ever had a scale that's bigger than that. So I'm going to say overflow hidden, background black. I'm going to say round the corners, right? So if you notice, the corners were rounded off. So if I show you that, these corners are actually rounded off. So we're going to head and apply the rounded top 3 Excel to go ahead and do that. And then afterwards, the voice synthesizer, we're going to go ahead and just simply wrap in a div. Okay, so this is basically the outline of what we're trying to do. And then we're going to go ahead and implement it bit by bit. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is implement the messages. So that way we've got a bit of the screen bulked out, because right now it just looks confusing. We don't know what's going on. So I'm going to create a component inside of our components folder. And I'm going to simply call this one messages.tsx. And I've got this nice handy extension, which I've always tell you guys to go ahead and use. If you type in ES7 on the extension search, you will find this snippets, right? Go ahead and install, no, not that one, sorry, this one. Yeah, you want to go ahead and install this extension. This is a massive, awesome extension, really worth doing. And then you can type in RFCE to get a nice little outline, okay? So once you've done that, the only thing that I want you to do for this step is simply go ahead and style the div outside, right? So we're going to say div class name. Just open this up so you can see the folder structure. We'll say div class name, make it a little bit bigger for you guys. And we're going to go ahead and do flex column. And I'm going to say minimum height should be the screen. I'm going to give it a bit of padding, and I'm going to say the padding on the top should be 20. Now, with that in mind, if I go back to my page and I go ahead and simply remove my template here and just put in messages, and I pop in my component, now what we can see is, look at that, guys, it uses up the minimum height of the screen. But you see there's a little bit of a scroll now because it's min height plus the input field down here, right? Now, as I mentioned before, these input fields, I'm going to hide them. So I'm going to say hidden, okay? And now we've basically got the input fields hidden, and we've got the submit field hidden. Okay, so now you can see we're starting to populate things out. And again, that padding on the top means that we're accounting for that fixed space there. Right, so we've got the messages now at the top. So this gives us a little bit of a starting point to get a little bit off the ground with. Okay, now with that in mind, I'm going to kind of build out the bottom recorder section. So we've got the messages kind of filling out the screen. What I want to do now is lock in this design, and then that way we can start implementing the functionality around it. So that way you're not just staring at a blank screen. So we can kind of know it looks a little bit more entertaining as opposed to like just, yeah, the slow approach. So I'm going to show you right now how we do that. So inside of our page, I need to refresh this playlist a little bit. This is not, I'm not feeling it today. Let's go and let's put on something else here. Okay, this is better. That's much better. All right. So for the recorder, if you can't tell, I've been working like crazy lately. It's actually wild. Make sure you have a water break when you're following this. All right, almost at 200 likes. Smash that like button. Let's go. Somebody says, what do you prefer, Flexbox or Grid? I actually prefer Flexbox in most cases, but Grid has amazing use cases. Okay, so let's go. So we've got the recorder in. Let's get into that flow. All right. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and create the components. I'm going to say recorder.tsx, boom, RFCE, like so. And now, when we've got the recorder here, we're going to go ahead and simply start styling this out before we start implementing the functionality that I spoke about. So for this one, it's going to be simply a flex container. Items are going to be center, and we're going to center them like so. And right now you can't see anything, right? And that's completely fine because ideally, I mean, actually inside of my page, we're not actually rendering it out. So we need to go ahead and put in the recorder like so. And what we should see now is actually, it is down there. So you can't actually see it, but it's there, right? So it's right down there. Now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to make it text white so you can see, right? So it's down there right now, and we can see something down there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop in a couple of things. So the first thing I'm going to do is pop in the Siri image, right? Oh, okay, it did it again. I can't say the word, otherwise it's gonna go crazy on me, right? So I can't do that. I'm not allowed to say that word. There we go. Talk about tricky navigating things around, right? So somebody goes, 2 years back, I started learning from Papa, and now I'm a software engineer from Sri Lanka. That is awesome, dude. Absolutely amazing stuff. So we've got this recorder down here. Let's go ahead and pop in the first image. So I'm gonna pop in an image like so, and we're importing the next image tag like this, boom. And now from here, I'm gonna say source equals, and I've actually basically inside the code that I've given you. So in that link in the description, I've gone ahead and popped it in. So the first link in the description, fill out that code, go to the GitHub repo, and inside of the image folder, you've got two images, the active and not active. So active is actually a GIF, and if you click it, this GIF will represent this image. Okay, so this is how you go ahead and do it. So in this instance, I've actually got these assets already. So I'm going to show you how to do it, but that's how you guys are going to go ahead and grab it. So I've already got the images. I'm going to grab them and pop them into my project right here. Oops, and not in that bit. At the top level, package.json, we're going to pop it at that level. So I've got my active GIF and I've got my not active, right? So the active GIF is a simply like a little moving arrow. So in this case, we're going to import our active GIF. Let's go ahead and do that right now. In this case, I'm going to import both because I'm going to need them both eventually. Right? And then to start things off, just so it's a bit entertaining to look at, we're going to say active assistant icon. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a width and a height. And this is going to be a priority as well, because we want this to absolutely load up. And for the out, we're going to say recording. Okay. Now, somebody says, is this a live or is this recorded? No, it's live. It's absolutely live. Yeah, so now you guys can see there, boom, it's looking kind of cool, right? So this is why I want to kind of build it out in this way, because it's a little bit more visually appealing as opposed to like the boring route of not seeing anything on the screen, right? It makes it a little bit more nicer to work with. So at this point right now, it's not very functional. It doesn't really do anything. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. Somebody goes, that's nuts. And then straight away said it as soon as he goes to this live. All right, so keep smashing that like button. Honestly, it's going to get pretty cool. Somebody goes, we missed the project in React with Material UI. No way am I using Material UI again. That's old school, guys. You need Tailwind is the way to go, right? Tailwind is the way to go. All right, so at this point now, we have this on the screen. So I think I want to get into the more, you know, the caller part now. So right now this is just a recorder, right? But what I want to do is I actually want to get into the, if we go back to my page, let's go back to the page like so. And over here, what we're going to do is I'm actually going to start prepping ourselves a little bit. So for the input field, we're going to eventually need access to this input field. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a reference to it. So a reference is essentially like a pointer. So I'm pointing at that input field so I can go ahead and access it or do something with it at a later time. So let's go ahead and check that out. So right now I'm going to say this is going to be a file input ref. So I'm just going to call it file ref. And then React, what we're going to do is I have to convert this to a client component. So by default, it is a server component. However, whenever you introduce any use hook, use effect, use ref, any of the things which are essentially like interactive elements, you have to go ahead and convert it to a client component. So we need a file ref. So in this case, I'm going to say const file ref equals use ref. Now this use ref is actually going to be for a type, and the type is going to be an HTML input element. Okay, or no. Now we need to import the use ref from React. So we go ahead and pop that in. And now, as you can imagine, this is going ahead and connect it to it. So if I ever need to point to that or interact with it, I can simply call file ref.current and now I have access to it. Abo, what is good, dude? Got some OGs in the house. Good to see you here as well, man. All right, and then we've got the button. So the button, similar approach, right? I'm going to have the submit button. I'm going to have a submit button reference. So let's go ahead and pop that in at the top. It's going to be an HTML button element. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead, take this reference and go ahead and put it over here. So we've got the reference equals submit button ref, right? Now, Omar says, this guy is a goat of coding, but React, I'm your brother. That's what I'm talking about, Omar. Appreciate you, dude. Right? So in this case, we've got the two fields and we've got references to them now, right? So this is exactly where we want to be. What's next? Let's think about it. Next, I want to go ahead and I'm trying to break it up in a way that is the most interactive, the most fun, right? So we've got the image, we've got the upload audio section for the recorder. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so for the recorder, what we actually need to do is I need to essentially go ahead and upload an audio file whenever. So, okay, here's how it works, right? We essentially have a hidden input file. Right, the hidden input element, and basically that input element is of type file. So when you click it, it opens up a file editor. Now a file, like a file browser, right? Now what we're going to be doing is actually behind the scenes, when I talk into the mic, it's going to capture that audio, save it to a file temporarily, upload it to that image, that input element. I don't want to keep saying image. Upload it to that input element, and then it's going to submit that in the form, right? And then that way we're going to basically ping it to a server action, you know, handle the AI transcription, and then it will work that way. So the first thing we're going to do is create a upload audio file function. So imagine what we're going to do here is basically this file is going to be responsible for capturing audio. So audio or any file data typically is in the form of something called a blob, right? Now a blob is essentially just like binary object data. So we can go ahead and say blob. So it's a native interface. And again, if you're not familiar with blobs, this is going to be a pretty cool thing for you to go ahead and learn. Abo, I appreciate you so much for $10 donation. He goes, this is for all your hard work. Thank you for making React easy to understand. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Talsif goes, guys, maybe it's pre-recorded. Nah, definitely not, dude. Definitely not. All right, so in this case, we got the upload audio. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a URL from our blob. So as I mentioned before, blob, think of it like just a data object, right? So as in image, video, it's binary basically object, right? So in this case, we're going to say const URL, and we're going to say equals URL dot create object URL from the blob. What this will do is it will give us a string, right, which represents the blob, right? Then we're going to create a audio item from it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and actually we don't use that. So I don't think I need this part, what I was doing before. Okay, so I actually can get rid of that. We can simplify my code. I've actually done that on live stream. Okay, so I made it even easier for you now. So next thing we're gonna do is gonna create a file. Now this file is going to go ahead and say const file equals new file. And we're basically gonna put in the blob, which is the first thing. And this is the file bits. So the first argument is the file bits. The second is the file name. And then we've got some options that we can go ahead and pop in. All right, so the file name, I'm gonna say audio.webm. right? So I'm going to use WebM as our audio format. And then for the type, you can see here, I can say type. You can see here, and then we can go ahead and actually pass in a type. Now for here, I'm going to use the blob type. So whatever type that I've uploaded, it's going to use that type. However, I would probably recommend that you try and stick to some sort of
another one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the donation coming in. Thank you so much, Abbo. I appreciate you. So we've got the blob type. So whenever you've uploaded it, but ideally you could even force it to be WebM here, so you're consistent. That's what I would probably do in hindsight. But to keep it simple with the code that I've uploaded, but in this case, you see that would be consistent with this. Otherwise it will throw an error. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and infer it from the type of file. And then I'm going to basically say, we're going to set the file as the value of the hidden file input field, right? So I'm writing this out so that way you understand, right? So we're gonna say if file ref.current, so if it exists, so if the reference is attached to something, then we can go ahead and do what we need to do, right? So this is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is explain something in the best way I can. But essentially what we're doing here is I'm simulating putting a file into this element. Right, so I'm simulating that. So basically I've created, a file from whatever we've uploaded here. And then I'm basically, in the code sense, I'm adding it to that input field. So I'm gonna say const data transfer equals new data transfer. And then it's pretty cool little test if you've never done this before. And I'll answer your questions in a second. We see data transfer .items.add, and we simply add the file to it. All right, and then what we do is we get our current ref. So this is the thing pointing at the input field. So this thing here, we're basically going to that with the reference, and we're assigning the files, the data transfer files. Simple as that, right? And then what we do is we submit the form. So we basically simulate a click, right? So we're basically going to say simulate a click, right? And submit the form. Okay, so at this point I can say if submit form ref.current. So if there is a reference attached to it, so you should be defensive programming. Then we're going to go ahead and say submit current click. And the reason why we do this, guys, is sorry about that. Yeah. What the hell? Why is this freaking out? What have I messed up here? Oh yeah. Oh god, Sonny, what are you doing? Data transfer .files. All right. So in this case, we say if the submit button ref. So the point of doing the if check is to see if it's actually attached to an item, right? So it does make a difference. Like if you didn't have this, it can throw up an error. Say you got rid of that line of code. So you should be defensively programming to say that, okay, only trigger off the simulation if it exists, right? And you could also do, I guess, like an optional chaining indicator, but yeah, you gotta be careful with that. All right, so a little question here. I say somebody goes, I like all your video streams, but I never got a chance to watch the live streams. As always, I always watch your videos in recorded videos. Well, glad you're here, dude. What's up? Smash that like button if you're enjoying it. Somebody goes, I have to tell you, bro, you're the coding rockstar, but always explain all the details, even the small things. I like your way of teaching. I appreciate these comments so much. It helps me out so much. Somebody goes, how many screens do you have, Dennis? I have 2 Pro XDRs in front of me. I have a laptop, I have an iPad, and I have a teleprompter. So there's a bunch of screens. Watch the vlog in the upcoming vlog to figure it out. I'll show ahead. And Sierra says, going to be watching this back later. I was speaking on your Insta a few days back. Awesome. Oh, yo, what's up, dude? I remember you. That is actually really, really cool to see you here. Thank you for tuning in. Omar says, how much did YouTube? Okay, I'm not going to answer any YouTube money questions. Okay, let's carry on. So at this point, we simulate the click. So this is ready now. So this function is like a pure function. It takes in the blob and it essentially will go ahead and click out. Okay, well, it's not really pure because it's dependent on these things, but yeah, it will go ahead and take in this input and then it will carry out the following. So it will transfer whatever, create a file from our blob, and then it will go ahead and basically simulate, putting that file into our hidden input field, and then it will simulate the submitting the form. Okay. So now that we've done this upload audio, what I can do is I can simply go down to our recorder and I can go ahead and say upload audio equals upload audio. Right, so what I'm going to do is the recorder, because if you think about it, when I click the recorder button, it should have all of the things that are necessary to go ahead and submit that audio. So we're actually going to get the audio from that component. So we're going to actually pass down the function over there. Right, so upload audio, we're going to go into our recorder and I'm going to pass that through as props. Right, now for the prop types here, we're going to go ahead and pop in the following. We're going to say upload audio and we're going to simply do an inline function here, as in like an inline. A few ways you could do this. I can go ahead and show you a couple of ways. If I just do props, I'll show you how we can do that. Or I can just give it to you directly. Let's just do it. Let's do it directly. Right, so upload audio is going to be a blob. So you're basically just writing the signature here. Whoa, we got a nice little donation there. Thank you so much. I will reply to it in a second. So this is just going to be a function which returns nothing, which is exactly what the upload audio function is. Sahib, what's good, dude? He goes, how are you doing, brother? Love your AI builds. Learn so much new stuff from you. Keep it up. I appreciate you so much. That is absolutely awesome. And it's your 5th super on the channel. So the 5th donation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. I'm grateful that you're here, right? We've got Hassam. Yo, this is cool, guys. You guys are absolutely awesome today. Somebody goes, I need your coding playlist, Sonny. Newsletter. Sign up to a newsletter. Jay just put in the chat and you'll get it for absolutely free. Right, guys, we're almost about to break 200 likes as well. Keep smashing that like button. Right. So at this point, we've got the upload audio, function being passed through. Great. Now, when we go ahead and we'll use that in a second. Like we'll use that afterwards. Okay. So we've got the upload audio functionality supported, right? And that's great. That's what we actually need. And you can see it's kind of a full flow, right? So imagine now when I go ahead and click this button, it would go ahead and eventually trigger off that upload audio function. The upload audio function will go ahead and simulate the form. And then basically this form with these fields would get submitted. Now, whenever you submit a form, guys, you have to give each of the form elements a name if you're going to use them, right? So in this case, the data is stored actually inside of this field, right? So this one right here. So we need to give this a name. And this one, let's simply just call it the audio. Yeah, so it's going to be audio because that's going to be the audio contents inside the form. And this is going to be the submit. That's how we submit the form, okay? And then eventually the server action is going to be pinged off from this. So we're going to say form action, but we don't have this yet. So I'm going to go ahead and input that afterwards, okay? So next step is the recorder. So the recorder is really the interesting part, is how we get that initial blob, which is the audio item itself. And then it's how we essentially submit the audio here, okay? So let's go ahead and do this right now. So inside the audio, we're going to go ahead and get this set up. So first things first, inside of the audio, we've got a couple of things to prepare, right? We actually need to firstly get the user's permission for using the microphones. You know, sometimes when you come onto a web page and it goes, do you allow or deny permission for the user to use the microphone on this web page? I'm going to show you how you can do that right now. So very simple. And in fact, because this is a very interactive element, we're going to go ahead and convert it to a client component. So we're going to say use client. And now it's no longer a server component, it's rendered on the client browser. And then we're going to go ahead and say const get microphone permission. Yeah, and then we're going to have, and this is actually an asynchronous function. Okay, and then we're going to say if. Now, here what we're doing is we're actually checking for something called the MediaRecorder if it's present inside of the window, right? So we're going to go ahead and say MediaRecorder in window. Now, again, this is another reason why we convert it to a client component, because the window would not be present inside of a server component because it's run on the server. There is no window, right? So in this case, if the MediaRecorder, and look at this, is pretty cool, right? It actually does quite a lot of what I need. But in this case, we're just going to say try catch, right? So we're going to have a try catch block to catch any errors. Let's say errors. Just for now, we'll just put an any and we'll just console log the error. In fact, for now, what I'm actually going to do is rather than that, I'm just going to do an alert. Okay, and inside of our try block, we're going to say const stream data equals, and this is how we essentially prompt. So that message you see on the screen when you get the permission from the user, the way you do it is you say navigator. This is like a native, APIs are built into a browser. We can say media devices dot get user media. Now, the cool thing here is if you need the user's video, here you can go ahead and pop in the following, right? So you can actually go ahead and give it here. You can say, if I need the video, I can ask for it, right? But in this case, we just need the audio, okay? And for this one, we don't need the video. So we can actually say video is false, the audio is true. Now, this will make it prompt on the page that we need that, right? So what I'm gonna do next is, once we've got the stream there, I'm gonna set the permission, a piece of state to true. Now, I don't actually have this set up yet, so I'm going to create that piece of state at the top, and we need to import our use state. and this will allow me to keep track of if the user has got permission on it. So by default, the permission will be false, and then once it comes back, I'll set the permission to true if there was no error. Okay, then I'm going to say set stream to the stream data. Now the stream data will be essentially what is being captured. So I'm going to just check something right now. All right, so in this case, the stream here, I use it. Yes, I do. Yeah. So then we need to go ahead and set stream. Now stream is essentially going to be how I capture the audio. So I'm going to set the stream, and this is going to come from the stream data that we just poured in. Okay. So essentially getting access to it here. So the microphone, and then we basically go ahead and do what we need to do there. Okay. And then if the window object doesn't have the media recorder, we're just going to alert the user to the following error. So actually I put that in the wrong place. That's actually there. And then here we would basically alert the message. So error.message like so. Okay. Now with this is actually, okay, why have I screwed this up? There we go. Else, try, catch. Here we go. Else. There we go. That's what I wanted. And for the set stream, we need to keep a piece of state for it. So I'm going to put it over here. So set stream like so. Good. All right. And my eyes are super dry. Wow. Okay. And now at this point, we've got the microphone permission. So what I need is I need to run this when the page is mounted, so I can go ahead and use something called a use effect. If you don't know how to use a use effect, I have a video all up on my channel about how to do it. So you can feel free to check out that video. And we're simply going to run it when the component mounts. Okay, so I'm going to pop it in like so. And what I would say here, guys, is this. If you put no dependencies here, it runs when the component mounts, and that's it. Right, so it only runs one time when the component mounts. Quick little water break before we carry on. Yo, Pat Peter in the house. What's good? Lovely to see some OGs. Change goes legend stuff. Amazing. I love seeing like OG Papa Fan members. It's so nice. Honestly, it's like a biggest community of devs ever. That is it. It's awesome, right? So we're almost at 200 likes. Smash that like button. Get this video growing. And remember, guys, go ahead and get the free code by hitting the first link in the description. Let me know in the comments right now if you've done that, right? So drop a comment if you're watching this back saying I have submitted the form. It also goes a long way to support the Papa Fan because we're working with this build with Microsoft, so it helps us out a lot. And you guys get a free bit of code as well. So make sure you check it out, right? So now we've done that, let's go ahead and see if it works. So I'm going to go back here, hit refresh, and I've already got permission. So you can see here, I've already got permission. So the way you test this is Command Shift to basically open up an incognito window, localhost 3000, and that's what we want to see, right? So you see here, localhost 3000 wants to use your microphone. So you click allow, and then boom, we get allowed, right? So that's perfect. So now we've got microphone permissions. So once we have the permission, we can go ahead and do a couple of things to render out what we need. So firstly, before I show this image, what we would want to do is we would want to say if there was no permission, then you could have a button which basically, went ahead and forced to get the permission or asked for it. So we can say if, or let's just do a pop JSX statement. We'll say if there is no permission, then we can go ahead and pop in the following. The Papa Fam OGs are here because Sunny and Jay dropped the fire content. Frank, I swear to God, man, you are an OG of OGs. You are so cool, dude. I always say get microphone. I appreciate you so much. All right, so at this point we've got, not this even. We don't even need the type here. We just need to say on click of this button, we're going to say get microphone permissions, right? So in this case, boom. So now if you didn't have permission, there'd be a little button there. You can really style that up as much as you want. I really don't care at this point, but I'm just going to keep it a simple button. So for example, if I didn't have this in the beginning, it wouldn't go ahead and trigger off. So it would say get microphone. But because we have that, it already knew that you had the permission. So it basically figures it out and then it doesn't show us that message. Okay. So now we can pop in the image because you have permission, right? So I'm actually going to make this also under ternary conditions to make sure that you've got permission before showing that out as well. So it'll be really nicely put together. Okay. But yes, we're going to be deploying this as well, right? So at this point now, we've got the active assistant icon here, and I want to basically do a bit of a next step. So I'm going to have a start recording and stop recording function. Okay, so let's go ahead and code those up first. And then once we're going to step up, and then we're going to get to the AI stuff. It's going to get really cool really quick. All right. So we're going to have a start recording function. So we're going to say const start recording. And for this, we're going to go ahead and have an asynchronous function. Oops. Asynchronous function like so. And here we're going to basically do a few checks. We're going to say if the media recorder is null. So if media recorder is equal to no, or the stream is not present. So in this case, we can say stream is not null, which means basically we haven't got the stream comes from this, the media recorder right here, but we haven't actually, determined what the media recorder is. So I'm going to show you how we can do that as well. So initially, guys, what we do is we go to the top. I need to create a media recorder. This is going to be a reference to the recorder object. Okay, so this media recorder right now is going to point towards where did I attach it to? I attached the media recorder to, I need to double check as well. Media recorder is attached to okay, so I'm not actually sure where I put the thing. Oh, okay, I was using that before and I actually got rid of that. Okay, so did I get rid of that? Where did I put it? Okay, so this was actually for when I had stop. Okay, so this doesn't actually make a difference. We don't actually need this in this bit. I'm going to refactor the code a little bit to make this better for you guys. Okay, so we don't actually need this. I had this before when I was experimenting a different approach, and I realized now that I don't need that. Okay, so we're good. We actually I'm simplifying the build for you guys, so it's actually easier. All right, so we don't actually need that line of code. We just need to say if there's no stream. So basically, if we don't have permission and we have the stream for the audio recording coming in, then that's the case. And we're going to basically also protect against, we're going to say if pending, right, return. Now pending just basically means if I've already submitted a form, and I'll show you how we can do that. This applies to server actions. And once you've submitted a form, we're actually going to be using something called the use form status function. Okay, so pending will become true once we submit a server action if the child element is inside the form, which this component is. So if you look here, the recorder is actually inside of a form. So once it submits the server action, this recorder use form status will basically say pending true while it's submitting, right? So it's actually pretty cool. So again, lots of live debugging. Right, and then you're right. And in this case, because we've got essentially the same bit of code here, we can go ahead and simplify this by putting it like so. So single line it always makes it easier. Honestly, changing up the code in real time here, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the recording status here. In fact, I don't even use that, to be honest. So I can keep that even more simple. Do I even use that? I'm just double checking something, guys. Oh no, I do. I like to use that. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to create a recording status ourselves. And this is just more of a easy thing. You can make this with an enum if you want, but I'm going to create a recording status and it's going to start off with inactive. Okay. So very simply put, just more of a simplicity thing. So you guys can know what's going on. Right? And you can kind of update your UI accordingly, but I'm going to say set recording status to recording. Okay. Now the next step is the cool part. So we're going to create a new media recorder instance using the stream. Media recorder instance using the stream. Now the stream again is where we get the permissions. So when we get permissions from the user, that's essentially what we call a stream. But then we have to create something called a new media recorder, and that allows us to actually capture audio from the user. So we say const media equals new media recorder, boom. And then basically we take the stream, which is basically where we got the permissions, and then we take the type of file that we actually want to create. So in this case, I'm going to say mime type, and then you want to kind of keep this consistent. So remember earlier, we actually said determined basically what we used in the other one was audio WebM, but we ended up saying actually whatever file type that you uploaded. But what I'm actually going to change here to make it a little bit better, maybe, is instead of doing that, you could export this and go back to your page, and where we actually used it over here, you could actually go ahead and do this mime type and then import that from components to make sure that they're consistent. So this one will be consistent with this one. And that way you're making sure that you're only uploading WebM. I think that's a much safer approach, if I'm honest, right? So again, we can always be better. So there you go. And now you can say mime type, and we're shorthanding it to be the same thing because this is the same name. If you ever have the same key and value name, you can shorthand it like that. Okay. So we've got our media recorder. This will allow us now to go ahead and actually capture information. All right, somebody goes, I want to meet you. I'm a big fan. Come to Dubai. Honestly, I'll meet you in person. 100%. I'm happy to meet any one of our followers. It's absolutely awesome. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cap media recorder. I don't use that again. Available. No, but I do use that. Okay. So I'm kind of, where the hell is the media recorder? 1 second, guys. Okay, so I am going to, okay, I'm going to create a media recorder at the top, right? So let's just go with it, right? So I'm going to create a media recorder at the top. This media recorder is going to be, we're going to assign it a couple of values, and this is going to be what's responsible for capturing a bunch of the information. And then it starts off with a no value. Okay, no, this is correct. Yeah, I got things mixed up actually. All right, so in the beginning, we're going to check if the stream is null, or if the media recorder doesn't exist. So we're gonna say if this, that, or media recorder dot current. No, we can just say it's no. Okay, there we go. And then what we can do is we can actually start messing with our media recorder, right? So we can say here, we'll say media recorder dot current equals media. Okay, so I remember what I did. Lots of things happening. So what we've done here is we've essentially gone ahead and created our media recorder object. So I don't actually need that line there because it will actually block us from doing it the first time. But we're assigning the media recorder current item to this. So imagine we've essentially created a kind of what's the word? I'm going blank. We've essentially created a digital media recorder. Then we've assigned it to this reference, so we can like basically do whatever we want with it. Then I'm going to start the media recorder. Okay, so think of it that way. So we've got like this digital media recorder. I'm going to say current.start, and this will basically simulate, the start of a recording, right? Then we're going to have something called local audio chunks. So we record our audio in chunks, and basically whenever it will basically we have to tap into a function called onDataAvailable. So I'm going to type in media recorder dot current again for the reference. I'm going to say onDataAvailable, and each time that fires off, so every time there's like data available, it'll fire off an event, and this event we basically will do something with it. Okay, so if the event data was undefined, so if type of event data is undefined, we're going to forget about it. If the data that came back was 0, so basically imagine you quickly pressed it and then you quickly stopped it and there was no audio, we're going to return, right? So defensive programming here. Otherwise, I'm going to store the local audio chunks I'm going to basically get the data that came through and just keep pushing it into this array. Okay, so we're basically, at the end of it, we'll have an array of audio chunks. Okay, then I'm going to set this audio chunks into a piece of state, and this is going to be a blob array. So you can see what's happening here. This is how we're essentially creating that initial blob that we end up uploading, right? So we're going to set the audio chunks over here. We're going to say set audio chunks to our local audio chunks like so. Okay, so that's essentially the recording done. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually have initially the if it's pending, I will have this kind of in action, but I'll have it grayscaled out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if it's pending, then I will render this image. As you see right now, it's not there. So we're going to have this, and we're going to say class name, and it's going to be grayscale, right? So eventually when I use this, if I type in, for example, tell me a funny joke, see how it's grayscale right now?
Here's a joke for you.
So that's how we do it.
Scientists trust atoms?
Yes, I can mute that. Yeah. So, and then I'm also going to have a bit of styling here. So I'll show you the custom styling afterwards. Okay. So we're about to break 200 likes as well, guys. Absolutely destroy that like button if you're enjoying this right now. Yeah. So for the initial state is this. It's like a still image of the button. So that's when we're going to trigger the start recording function. So here I'm going to say, if you have permission, and the recording status is inactive, right? And it's not pending because I don't want any of these states to be matched up. Then I want an image component to be loaded out with the not active assistant icon like so. So you see now it's like not active, right? And again, it's going to click when we trigger it, it's going to start recording. The alt tag is not recording. And we've got an assistant. I'm going to create this assistant custom class, and it's just got a bunch of styling around it. Okay. I'm going to give the same class here, assistant. And to create a custom utility class, how are we animating it? Or it's a GIF. It's a GIF, Isaac. Yeah. So in this case, if I want to create a custom style here, I go to my globals. So in fact, Command P globals, and we can actually add it in here. So inside of my globals now, I can go ahead and say @layer components, and I'm going to say dot assistant, and I'm simply going to say @apply, and this is going to apply so styling to everywhere where we use this custom style. So height and width of 40, and I'm going to make it object contain, and now you can see, boom, right? It stays nice and content in that sort of styling. So that's what I want. When I click this now, it will start recording. So this will trigger off basically the beginning. So it'll start collecting the audio chunks, and it'll set the audio chunks to whatever's been recorded, right? But we also need a stop recording. Otherwise you start the recording and you never stop it, which is not great. Okay, so we're going to set the recording once that goes active in effect. Because we set the recording status to recording, we can now go ahead and check against that. So we can actually do the opposite. So we can say recording status equals recording, and we can render out the opposite, right? So in this case, we can render out an active assistant icon. So I'm going to render out the following, and I need to create a stop recording. So this is going to be the GIF, the way it's animating and everything like that. Isn't GIF too heavy than image? No, it's arguable, but in this case, I'm storing it here anyway. So it's like, you can really play around with yourself. In this case, dynamic app, it's not too bad. It's fine. You can really compress it down if you're worried about that, but I wouldn't stress too much, right? So the stop recording, we're going to trigger off afterwards. So in this case, we're going to create a function called stop recording equals asynchronous, and then like so, boom, right? And then sometimes you guys ask questions like the question that came in here about the font family and Tailwind. Guys, honestly, learn to, like I say this in the best way possible, learn to Google effectively. I promise you, because sometimes the questions are like, just Google that and it will come up with the first link in the description. It'll show you that. I'm not saying that in a horrible way, but it's just the truth, right? And I'd rather be a good, honest mentor than lie to you, right? So in this case, we've got the stop recording. And here I'm going to go ahead and say, if there is no media recorder, we're going to return. And also I'm going to return if it's pending. Okay, so two conditions to go ahead and stop it. And we're going to say set recording status inactive, right? And then I'm going to stop the recording. So MediaRecorder.current.stop. And then I'm also going to tap into the onStop function. So media.onStop, and then I can do some cool stuff. So when it stops now, I can basically create an audio blob from the audio chunks that I have stored. So these audio chunks are the ones that we set up here. So remember, we set the audio chunks and we were collecting it as we were recording. So once we stop the media recorder, I now have an audio blob. Okay. So once we have the audio blob, yes, you can use, yes, you could do this as well. If you're wondering, you can do that. It's good. I love your comments. It's good. Yeah. Mr. Frank goes, 50% programming is how good you are at Googling. Yeah, I actually agree with you. So in this case, we're going to create a audio URL. So you can see where I'm kind of going with this. Audio URL equals a URL.create object URL audio blob. And then this is where we basically upload the audio. So firstly, I'm going to set audio to, actually, you know what? In this case, I don't even use the audio locally. So I don't need to create a set audio. I just need to go ahead and say upload audio, and I upload the audio blob. Okay. And we can also eradicate the audio chunks. So that way, when you start recording again, it starts a clean slate, right? So that's how we essentially do it. In fact, here I don't need to do this anymore, because basically before what I was doing is I had a little player. So you could basically play the audio back, but I'm not going to do that now. So we can actually simplify even more. So essentially we've gone full circle now. When we start recording, we collect the audio chunks. When we stop recording, we basically on the stop So we stop it, and then on stop, we tapped into that function. We say, go ahead and create a new blob, so a new file from the audio chunks with that MIME type, which is essentially audio WebM. And then we go ahead, upload the audio to the audio blob. So if we go into that function now and we go back over to our page, we will remember the upload audio will then create a URL from that file. Oh, we didn't even use that actually. One second. Let me go back over here. Let me double check. So I think oh my God. Okay. So you know what? I've actually made a mistake. Yeah, we can simplify our code even again. All right. So in this case, we don't even need that. All right. So I ran fast here. I literally ran fast. We didn't even need that in the end. All right. So we create a file from that blob with audio WebM, and then we go ahead and we basically put it into the input field and we submit the form. So now I think that essentially clears it up. Okay, so you see what we essentially did there. Lots of hidden input form field tricks, and we used a MediaRecorder to capture my voice, create an image, or God, why does it keep saying image? Create an audio file from it, and then basically place it into our form and simulate the submit. Now we get the fun part because we've captured the audio. Firstly, let's give it a test as well, right? Let's go to our recorder, and if I've done it all correctly, we should have everything set up. So pending, good. I just want to check one more thing here. So we've got everything checked out. Okay, let's do it. So if I click this now, let's go ahead and give it a go. Boom. Okay, there we go. It's recording, and now the recording state would be in the this bit here. So it would be, you know, active assistant icon is rendering out. When I stop recording, we should get the pending. All right, so it should be grayscale. So if I click it now, look at that. Oh, okay, so that didn't work. Okay, the reason why this happened, oh, you guys didn't see that. If I click it now, so look, we click it, it's recording. And then if I stop it, boom, it's because it submitted the form, right? So it submitted the form. So the whole reason why that happened is because in our actual initial submit form, right now, it's the default behavior of submitting a form is to refresh the page. It's traditional. We're not going to do that. We're going to actually have a server action, so it will work, right? We smashed 200 likes. Let's go, guys. The retention is crazy today. I appreciate you guys. Quick little water break. Let's carry on going. All right. So now we go to our form, and I'm going to create an action now. So this is where the cool stuff happens. So now we're going to build a server action, right? So this is where the real interesting stuff happens. If you've been wondering how server actions work, firstly, I made a video on it. Check it out on the channel. If you're watching the replay, Jay will make it pop up somewhere around the screen right now. There you go, Jay. And also, Samput goes, hey, holla, bro, what's up, dude? All right, and then we're going to create a form action. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and create. Oh, Abo, another $10. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much, man. $20 donation now with Abo. I appreciate you, man. So cool. All right, so we're going to create oh God, what have I done? No, don't do that. All right, we're going to create a new folder here. We're going to call it, don't do what I just did. Click package JSON to at the top level, create an actions folder, and I'm going to create a transcript.ts. All right, transcript.ts. In fact, to be honest with you, do I call it transcript? Okay, that's not, yeah, okay, fine. Transcript. That's going to be basically the audio part. So you can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call it transcript. I know it's probably not the best thing to call it, but anyway, it is what it is, right? So we're going to go ahead and call it transcript. And now inside of this, we're going to create a server action. So server actions, we can go ahead and say use server directive at the top of the file. This basically says that it's a server action for the you know, there we go, it's coming in. Thank you so much for the donation. So we're going to go ahead and we need here Azure OpenAI. So this is where Azure comes in. So guys, if you haven't already, basically what you need to do now is first link in the description. Like I said, fill out that form. Go ahead and do it right now. So you've got this right here. Right, so the GitHub repo, you've got 0 to Full Stack Hero to join us in the course if you get stuck at any of this. Now what I want you to do is, you see down here, don't have an Azure account, sign up for free. So I want you to click this, sign up, okay? Sign up for it. Now, once you're inside of Azure, go to the Azure, you know, OpenAI service page. And here you can see, try Azure for free, try for free or apply for access. So if you apply for access, you'll pretty much get granted access pretty quick. So I've done it, lots of people I know, lots of my students have done it. So you can go ahead and apply for access. Then once you're inside, we can go ahead and sign in. So I'm going to sign in right now to go into my portal. So once you've signed in and you've got your Azure account, I'm going to go ahead and, which account did I do it in? I'll show you from scratch. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and sign in right now. I think it was my personal account. Okay, it wasn't that account. It was my other accounts. I'm going to log into the team account right now. Okay, so I'm now in the team account, and you might have to do a little bit of configuration afterwards, right? So in this case, you might have to set up your subscriptions, your billing, all of that good stuff. But once you've got that down, click on Azure OpenAI. So click on this, and again, you may have to request for access to this, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on create, right? Now, there's something that you need to be very careful of here. There's different locations you can create in. I need you to go ahead and use North Central US. Now, the reason for this is the North Central US deployment of the Azure service allows us to use things like the Whisper AI service. Not all of the deployment areas support that. There is also another one, but I'm guaranteed sure that North Central is the only one that works. If you don't do that, it will cause a problem. So you click on create, and we can go ahead and firstly, if you don't have a subscription, it'll run you through. Thank you very much, guys. Happy Ramadan to all of you as well. All right, so in this case, we've got the subscription here. Click on, I've got a few active subscriptions. We're going to click on this one, and resource group. Here, I'm going to create a new resource group, and I'm just going to call this one AI Assistant. So AI Assistant YouTube clone. Okay, and we're going to click OK. And then here, you see, this is what I was talking about, North Central US, right? And the name here, again, AI Assistant YouTube clone. Pricing tier, standard SO. Okay, click on next. And then here we can go ahead and continue on. I don't need any tags. And then it will actually create our Azure OpenAI deployment. So in this case, you can go ahead and do it, and you can control your billing, everything completely. Like I said, guys, the first link in the description actually gives you $200 worth of Azure credits, and you can use all the popular services for free for 12 months. So absolutely, definitely do not pass this one up, right? So first link in the description, make sure you follow it. Then you click on create, and this will go ahead and initialize the deployment. Okay. So once this is done, we have our Azure service basically set up in the way that we need it. All right, so let that do its thing, and we need to go ahead and install Azure OpenAI, right? Now you're probably wondering, how does he know what to install and this and that? There's lots of documents that we can go ahead and use, but in this case, you can see here, there's lots of different ways here. But to be honest with you, if you just type in Azure OpenAI, docs, for example, you'll see a bunch of different ones. Even the OpenAI website, if you just click on libraries, head down, guys, and you click on the Azure OpenAI client for JavaScript, you will now see this pop up. And if you go down, you can pretty much get the install right there. Okay, so you're going to copy that, go back over. I like showing you the rawest of raws. That way you can go ahead and see npm install Azure OpenAI. And now you just want to import that into our code, right? And in a second, this will disappear, this error message. There you go, right? And once you've done that, we can essentially go back to our, Azure deployment. Where did I put it? Did I go away from it that far? Let's go back to the Azure deployment. Where was it? Yeah, here we are. Deployment. So we've got the deployment here, AI Assistant YouTube clone, and then you want to do next steps, go to the resource. Okay, so there we go. We've got the deployment. Now what I need you to do is, firstly, you've got your keys and endpoint. So do not expose your keys. They're very important. Your endpoint is public, it's completely fine. And then you've got your location and region. So in this case, I want to click on this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy to clipboard, and I want you to do the following. So inside of your code, we're going to go ahead and create a environment file. So here, I'm going to do a environment file. So close everything off, click on package.json at that level, .env.local. Okay. Now inside of your environment file, I want to do a few things. So firstly, I want to have a Azure endpoint. Now the Azure endpoint is the one that we just copied here. So I need you to copy that, simply pop it in. Next up, we have the Azure deployment name and the Azure completions name. So we're going to go ahead and fill these ones out afterwards. But we've got the Azure deployment name and Azure completions name, right? And then we've got the Azure API key. Okay. Now the Azure API key is essentially one of these keys. So if I go ahead and copy this key, I'm going to paste it and close this file. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to paste it, save that file, and I'm closing that now. So now I've saved it into my environment file. Okay. So I've got a key in my environment file and I've got my endpoint. The deployment name and completions name we will tackle in a second. right? So now you want to click to model deployments, and you want to click on manage deployments. Manage deployments will take you to Azure OpenAI Studio, right? I teach all of this in the course, right? So once you've got this down, this is where the real magic starts to happen. So at this point, we're going to create 2 deployments. One is going to be for the Whisper AI speech recognition service. And this is going to be the one that essentially allows us to convert my voice into text using the Whisper AI service. And then we're going to have the chat completions, and you can either use GPT 3.5 or 4, completely up to you. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a new deployment, select model. And here you should see Whisper. Remember, if you do not see Whisper, it's because you deployed in a different location. You had to have deployed in, I believe it was the North Central location, right? And there's another one, there's one more as well. But in this case, I'm going to firstly deploy the Whisper. And here I've got a no quota. Okay, so I need to actually go ahead and manage my existing quota. I think I have too many things on there. Let's go ahead and get rid of some of those, and I'll show you right now. So what's good about the whole Azure service, and this is a good little in-depth review now, as you can see, I've got a bunch of things happening here. I've got a GPT example over there. I can actually go ahead and turn some of these off, right? So requests per minute, so again, right now, we're rate limited to 3 per minute for the Whisper, but you can go ahead and increase this quota as well. Again, because it's like more of a preview that we're using right now, that's the reason why we might get this. But in fact, what I'll do is I'll show you how to go ahead and set it up, and then I'm going to use the one that I've already deployed, right? Because I think that's going to make more sense. So that way I don't have to exhaust my quota or anything. So at this point, you just do Whisper. You go ahead and do simple auto update to default, and simply put a deployment name here. So in this case, I'm just going to put something like Siri Assistant. Okay. No, I did it again. I did it again with the voice. Okay. There we go. All right. So S Assistant. All right. And then click on create. All right. So I've already done this. So I'm going to click create, and that's good. And then you're going to create another one, and you're going to create a second model, which is going to be, in this case, I'm going to use just GPT 3.5. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to call this one S Assistant. You can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to call it 3.5 Turbo. Okay. So that way we know the difference between them. So we've got 2 deployments now. Okay. Now, once you've done that, click on create as well. Okay. So the Whisper AI is more of a, you have to increase your quota if you want to use that a little bit more. Okay. Some people asking how much prep in terms of hours. It does take upwards of 20 hours easily. I take a lot of time prepping these builds. So yeah, I massively appreciate you guys. So now I would have deployed it. So I'll show you my deployed library, right? So what I'll do is I'm going to go into my portal and I'm going to show you that one instead. So my portal is actually from the Siri Assistant demo. So there you go. So now what you will have is, once you've done that, I'm going to swap my keys over as well. I've already got everything prepared. So in this case, we go to manage deployments. Once you've done that deployment step, you will see 2 deployments here now. You will see the Siri Assistant. No, don't. Okay, there we go. You see the Assistant 3.5 Turbo and the Assistant. You can see model name Whisper and GPT 3.5 Turbo. There we go. Great. Okay, that's good. Now at this point, what I need you to do is go over to your. I need to change my environment. So I'm going to go into this for a second. I'm going to hide something so you don't see it. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I need you to basically, for the completions, I want you to put the 3.5, whatever you named your 3.5 Turbo one, I need you to put that there. So in this case, this was one. And for the original Whisper AI one, I want you to put that there. So in this case, I've got my Whisper AI, I've got my 3.5 Turbo, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the endpoint as well. So I've actually changed back to my old project. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And then for the API key, I've actually got my API key. So I'm going to copy that, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to close this. So I'm going to paste, save, and I'm closing the environment file now. So I've got 4 environment files, okay? So in this case, and 4 environment variables. So now we're prepared, right? So I've got my, deployments. This means that I can now use Azure's service to process all of my OpenAI inquiries, and it's basically going to work really, really flawlessly and nicely. So at this point now, we can go ahead and do the interesting stuff. So let's go to the transcript. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a random ID. So firstly, let's create a function for what we need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it in like so. So this is the actual server function, right? So this is server action, sorry. And in a server action, when we go ahead and use it in the form of so there's two ways of using a server action. If you go ahead and call it just by itself, it's just going to be past the form data. However, if you use it in the form like so I'm going to show you up here. If you use it like this with the use form state hook and you pass in the transcript, for example, so in this case, if I go ahead and export this file, so I'm going to export default transcript, right? So if I go ahead and do that now and I import it like this, the initial state as well, you can go ahead and pop in like so. Let's pop in, this is the initial state that we want, sender, response, and ID. Now here, use form state. When you use a server action like this, you're actually changing the signature of the transcript. So here you now have a previous state and you have form data as opposed to just form data. So that's why it may look a little bit different. And now here, what we're going to do is actually the more interesting thing. So now at this point, I can check against the previous state. So if I was you, I would console log, test a couple of things out here. This will appear in your console logs in your server, right? So that's how it works here. But I'm going to go ahead and firstly check if you've got all of your environment variables set. Okay, so if you've got all of your environment variables set, if you haven't got any of them set, so if any of these environment variables aren't set, it's going to throw an error and it's going to return the sender and response saying Azure credentials are not set. Okay, so we're going to send that back to the front end, right? The next thing is we need to basically, let's assume that, okay, you did send the audio file, right? Now we know it's the audio file because when you submit this form, so this is the form that we're submitting, the file that we submit inside has a name of audio. So now that we submit it to the server action, we need to get that. So basically we say const file equals form data.get audio, all right? And we're passing it as a file, right? We're going to check, we're going to say if the file size is 0, then we're going to go ahead and basically return a message saying no audio file was provided. So again, a lot of defensive programming. At this point, you can go ahead and actually, log out the file if you want. These are debugging steps, right? Really, at this point, once you've cleaned up your code, you can get rid of those, right? But in this case, I'm just going to keep them so you are aware of what we're actually doing. And this is the really cool part. And this is why I'm going to show you and really push the sort of, using Azure with OpenAI, because once you set it up, guys, it's so quick and easy to get working. It's crazy. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to go ahead and create an array buffer from our audio file. So what I mean by this is from our audio file, we're basically creating, if you highlight over this creates something called an array buffer. Now we're basically, in short, we're making this something where we can send it in a request away. We can't just send a file across the internet. We're going to create like a string version of it, right? So in this case, this audio file is a uint8 array, and we're basically using our array buffer. So we're basically converted our file into like this long sequence of characters which represents the audio, right? And now that we've got that audio, what we're going to do is we're going to transcribe it from Azure's OpenAI Whisper. Right, so this is, well, it's not really, it's the Azure Whisper AI service, right? And this is basically responsible for transcribing the audio into text. Okay, so first step is we need to get an OpenAI client, right? And the way that we do that is we say const client equals new OpenAI client. We use our environment variables for our endpoint, which we just set up a second ago. And then we go ahead and use new Azure key credential, and we use the key that we went ahead and set earlier as well. Okay. All of this is kept safe because it's on the server. So this is not going to get exposed on the front end in case you're wondering. So yes, we're doing some pretty good approach here. Okay. Next up, we get the result. Now, how do we get the result? And what I mean by this is how do I go ahead and get the text from my voice? So as I'm saying, who is the president of the United States? And then it does its Whisper AI transcription to text. How do I get that text? Well, so what we say is const result equals await, and then we say client dot get audio transcription. And you can even do translations, guys. So the really cool thing about this is, let's just say I spoke in Hindi or Punjabi or Spanish to this service. It will actually translate it to English as well, and you can do vice versa, and it will give you back different languages. So really, really cool stuff. I recommend you check it out a bit further. In this case, audio transcription, and then I'm going to go ahead and pass in two variables. The first one is going to be the deployment name. And remember, the deployment name is going to be the Whisper deployment name. The second one was actually for the completions name. That's for more when we the next step, right? So once we've done that, we will actually get back the transcription. So if I was to go ahead and trigger this right now and say, you know, my name is Sunny, blah, 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 it will go ahead and actually give me the transcription at this point, which is really cool. Okay. So that at this point, you've already taken my voice and ran it through the Whisper AI to get my voice turned into text. Okay, so now we've used AI to convert my voice into text, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pass that, you know, that text into again Azure's OpenAI service to get the response from an assistant. So imagine that we're speaking to, I'm not going to say the word, but our AI assistant, Siri, right? Because I don't want to trigger everyone's devices. But let's say we do that, then we want to basically get the response from that assistant. So now we say const messages, and basically we're going to do something called, we're going to create a chat completion. So the way we do this is we say chat request message, and we basically pass it in like so. This is a type. And then we basically go ahead and pass in a system message, which prepares our AI assistant for, you know, what it's doing. So here in this case, we're going to say, you are a helpful assistant. You will answer questions and reply. I cannot answer that if I don't know the answer. And here, basically, you can set up your assistant in whatever way. You can say you are now called Elon, the AI assistant. And every time somebody answers you a question, you should say, hi, I'm Elon, and this is the answer to your question. The point is that this is basically where you put in the setup for your AI assistant, and that's what we call system messages. And then the second one is where we actually give the text, right? So in this case, we pass in the role of the user. So this is actually the prompt where we basically ask GPT to complete. And the content is actually my voice transcription. So the returned data that we got from the Whisper AI service, so that when I talked in, converted it to text, that is this right here, the result.text. And in this case, we pass that into ChatGPT. Okay. Now what we do is we can simply go ahead and show the message output. So this is actually the messages in total. So we don't need to show that. That's more if you want to debug it. I'm just showing you to help you out. But we can get the completions now. So in this case, I can go ahead and say const completions equals await client.get chat completion. You see there's a lot of things here, right? Embeddings, images as well. You can do a lot with this. And what we're actually going to do is I'm going to pass in 3 arguments. And the second argument, remember, was the completions deployment name, right? Now, a lot of people mess up here because they actually think the deployment name is something else, but you have to name it whatever you deployed it as. That name in the portal is where you want to do it. So whatever deployment name, so in this case, the second one would be Siri Assistant 3.5 demo. So it would be, this would be, you know, the environment would set to, you know, S Assistant demo. And then you got the messages, and then you can do max tokens. You can do a lot of things here, right? You can even give a few more arguments as well if you'd like. I think there's like N and a few other things, right? But in this case, we've got the completions, and then the response would be the actual, so the actual response back here would be the first message that comes back. So the first choice that comes back would be, this is how you essentially get the response back, right? And then what I like to do is just to debug, you can get the previous state. So this will actually be what the previous state was before we sent the result, and then the actual result itself. So I like to go ahead and just, you know, debug that out. But what I'm going to do is return the information. Now this is where the genius part comes in. So we're going to send the actual data back. So the sender is we're sending back this object. Now the sender has the text that I spoke. So the text that I spoke that got transcribed using the Whisper AI, that will be the sender, because technically I'm sending a message to our AI assistant. The response would be the response that came back from the GPT AI service. So OpenAI's GPT service from Azure. And then we have an ID in this case, which is right here, right? So this ID, we did create an ID at the top, no? Okay, so we didn't actually create an ID. In this case, I've just done a little very easy snippet of this bit more of a lazy code, but you can use UUID or just some math random. Right, in this case, that's completely fine for what we need. And then so that's how we essentially do it. Now, when you do a server action, it will go ahead and submit the form here, right? Now, the interesting part here is you can actually go ahead and update the state. So you can do a full round trip here whenever you actually go ahead and trigger a server action. So you don't need to refresh the page. You can actually do a full round trip and then update the UI accordingly. So it's a really nice way of working now. So form action goes ahead and gets pulled from here. So in this case, we've got our form action, use form state, transcript, and the initial state is this. So the initial state of our messages is essentially sender, response, and ID. And this is where the clever part comes in. So we need to basically define what a message looks like. So a message will look something like this: sender, response, and ID. And then I'm going to create a messages array. Okay. So I'm going to create a messages array like so. And this is going to be a part of state. Now these messages, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to create a use effect. Now this use effect is going to be responsible for updating the messages array when the server action completes. So we're going to create a use effect here. And this is where it really gets pretty cool, right? So when we submit that form, when it responds with the actual AI's reply, the state will change that comes back. So this state variable will change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a use effect which updates whenever the state is changed. This is the dependency. And what we then do is, first I need to import that from React. What we then do is we say if the state dot response and state dot sender. So if there was a message in both, then I'm going to say set messages, and basically I get the messages. So it's a previous state messages, and I'm basically going to go ahead and populate it. So I'm going to say I'm going to basically add it to the beginning of the messages. So we're going to, the simple way of thinking about this is I'm going to keep all the messages that are currently there. Okay, but I'm also going to go ahead and add another object, right? And this is going to be the message state.sender response, which is state.response, or it's going to be state.id. Now, some of these, there is a condition here where it could be undefined. So even ID here, I think we can go ahead and safely say state ID. And but in this case, just to be extra safe, what you would do is, you can even go ahead and say, if it doesn't come back, give this a default value of nothing, and so forth, right? So you can go ahead and apply all the conditional logic if you want to. That's completely up to you, right? And if you're enjoying this, guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button right now. Just do it right now. Thanks. Okay. This video needs to pump out as many people as possible, right? So in this case, we can, set the messages here. And now what will happen is when I successfully submit, so we've actually layered it all up to work in the way that it should be working. So I think we can actually give it a dummy try. So we won't see anything actually appear on the screen yet, but if I console log messages, what we should see on our client here is we see an array of 0, right? So in this case, that's fine. Ignore this. This is just from my silly extensions that I've got. But let's go ahead and give it a try now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a try and let's see what happens. So I don't know why my iPad never locks when I'm live. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a try right now. So I'm going to mute the music and let's give it a try. So we're going to say, who is the president of the United States? Right, and what we should see here is, look at this, guys. It worked. So I'm actually I completely, shun that. So here you go. I done that. And then it went to previous state. This is on the server. Transcribe audio sample. The transcription was, who is the president of the United States? And then we did not get a reply, I don't believe, right? So it said, oh no, it did. Yeah. So you see the sender, who is the president of the United States? And the response was, as of October, the president of the United States, blah, blah, blah. Nice. Right. So I can do it again just to show you in real time. So I'm going to clear this, and let's go ahead and try again. So let's do it. Give me a question in the chat and I can do it. Tell me a funny joke. Okay, so you see, look, tell me a funny joke. Who is the president of the United States? Oh, sorry, that's the previous state, right? So remember, you can actually get the previous state as well. And in this case, look, so you've got the first one, who is, so remember, we're appending with that use effect. Tell me a funny joke, and it says, sure, here's a funny joke. So you see how fast that is, guys. Azure allows us to be incredibly fast. Now, it's worth mentioning, 3 messages per minute is the initial quota. So if you do 3 messages, there's going to be a pause until the next minute because, that's what we're doing here. It's currently we're doing it for free. So if you want to improve that, you can just simply request your quota to be increased. But absolutely incredible. You can actually implement this in such a scalable way. Look how fast that was. It's nuts. That literally, in that second, like within a second, guys, that actually went ahead and transcribed. Let's go back here. So it sent the audio track. So when I spoke into the microphone, it translated that into text using the Whisper AI service from Azure. And then it went ahead and took the result from that, and it went ahead and used Azure's OpenAI service to create a chat completion, right? So it used the previous text, speech to text as input into the chat completion, and then we got that back and sent it back, and then it updated on the UI. So now that we've got the full round trip working, we can go ahead and implement the messages to show on the screen, which is absolutely awesome, right? So let's do that. In this case, guys, let me know. That was pretty damn cool. That was pretty damn cool, right? So in this case, we've got the messages there. The messages are coming through. So at this point, we've got messages here. I'm going to say messages, and we're going to pass it through. So messages like so. Boom. Okay. Now, for these messages, I'm going to go into the messages component, and we're going to go ahead and pop it in like so. So messages. So here I can pass in my messages. And we're going to go ahead and say props. There's a few ways you can do this, right? I'm going to show you. I showed you the destructuring approach, but if you want to have an interface like this, you can say props. And you can say messages is a message array. And this message, we actually imported it, the type from our app, right? So remember, we're going to keep it consistent. So now we pass the messages through and we can render it out like we need to. So at this point, let's start doing that. So we've got the div class name. Now I'm going to go ahead and just style this out and show you, so that way we can nicely move forward with it pretty quick. But if we have no messages, what I'm basically going to say, I'm going to show a message on the screen. So here, if there are no messages, we can do it like this, but actually I want to do it a nicer way. So if there are no messages, then instead, this bit I'm not going to spend too long on to show you, because it's basically just very simple. I'll import the chevron icon. Let's import that like so, chevron down circle, right? So what I'm doing here is I've made a div. It's just a flex box, and it centers the items with a slightly little trick just to make it a little bit more center. And then we've got start a conversation, and it's posting, and then this one is bouncing, right? So if there's no messages in the beginning of a chat, so if I go ahead and do that now, what we should see, there's no messages in the chat, and right now it's not being padded up correctly, right? So what I'm going to do here is I've actually got it. So if there are no messages, it increases the padding to show at the top. So the way that I've implemented that is we do backticks with some JSX like so. You could use this, or you could use the util, the CN util library that's included here to combine, Tailwind class names, which is fine. You could use either or. And then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to say messages.length is greater than 0. So if there are messages, then I want the padding bottom to be 96. Otherwise, I want the padding bottom to be 32. And there's a reason for this. So if we do this right now, in this case, I've kind of messed it up a little bit. So I want this to actually be, let's just say a little bit more for now. Let's do something like 52. Okay. In this case, look at that. We've got that. Nice. And I've actually changed something here. So I've done padding left of 6, but we don't actually need to do that, I don't believe. So if we do that straight, yeah, there we go. I don't know where I messed up before. All right, so now you've got a nice little adjustment, right? So the reason why I've done padding, because remember, we're using fixed elements, so we actually need to account for the space make sure we don't run into that little annoying issue. But there we go, that's really nice, right? And if I was to go ahead and say something like, hello world, now it'll do this, it will populate the message, and then now, because messages would have come back, it's disappeared. And in this case, we would show the UI of the messages, right? So in this case, we've got messages length down here, but what I want to do is I want to go ahead and say a div, and this div will have, a padding of 5 and space on the y-axis of, to be fair, I want to implement that afterwards. Yeah. And we're going to say messages.map. Now it's worth mentioning that every message comes back as like a pair. It comes back as a sender and receiver message, right? So we need to remember that as well. So we've got the message, and I'm going to do an implicit return by using parentheses. And then here, I'm going to say div, right? Now this div, every time you map through, you should always have a key, right? And in this case, the message ID is going to be our key. And I'm going to go ahead and have a p tag, and it's going to say message response, right? So message, in this case, actually, I'm going to have the p tag But I'm actually going to do it in a way where we've got a sender and receiver. So I'm going to save us a little bit of time here by popping in the sender and receiver. So you see we've got the sender and the receiver. Both have a custom utility class of message, which I haven't actually gone ahead and created yet. So I'm going to create that right now. But then you can see the rest of the styling. But there you go. Hello, how can I assist you today? Hello world. So if I was to go ahead, stop the music right now, and I type in something like, I say, tell me who the president of the United States is. You'll now see in a second, this will come back and boom, tell me the president of the United States, as of my knowledge, blah, blah, blah. And it looks horrible right now because we haven't styled it. So let's add that custom message utility class. Go to globals.css. Let's do that right now, globals.css. And we're going to go ahead and add that in here. So we say dot message apply. And I say background purple 500. And we'll make it relative because we didn't do it in the end, but yeah, you could make it relative and do some cool stuff there. I'm going to say rounded, large, and width should be to fit. And look at that, just like that, guys, we have some really nice styling, right? And I've done a little trick here where I've done the background left on the sending to be on the receiver, which is the AI bot. It's essentially going to have like a not rounded corner there. So it's coming from there like a speech bubble. And again, from this side, it's the bottom right none. That's why you've got bottom right and bottom left none. Okay. Now you can see they come in pairs. So for the surrounding div, we actually just simply say space Y of 5. And just like that, we have a bit of spacing. And we can do the same thing here. We can say space Y of 5. And there you go. We get a bit of spacing from it, right? So that's a lot nicer now. And if we refresh, you can see, look at that, guys. So it'll get the microphone and we have everything. So now if I go ahead and do it again, we can go ahead and say something like, what is the best programming language? And now we should be able to see in a second that the best depends on specific use cases, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if it knows who I am. Who is Sunny Sanger on YouTube? I don't know if it's going to know this one. Okay, so it doesn't know YouTube. It's best to search for Sunny Sanger on YouTube. I mean, it kind of got me, right? But there you go, right? And let's do one more to kind of see if it can go past that limit. So let's go ahead and say something like, tell me a funny joke in coding. Right, and you can see, look how fast this is, right? So tell me if I'm here's why do programmers prefer dark mode, because light bugs distracts bugs. You guys can be the comment if that's good or jokes or bad, but like you can see, look at that, look, absolutely awesome. And the padding trick that I showed you earlier, the padding bottom 96, was so that it allows me to have this additional space at the bottom. But this looks clean, guys. Like smash that like button if you're liking it so far. But that's absolutely awesome. And you can see how quick that was, right? It's not only using AI to basically turn my voice into text, but it's also going ahead and using the result from that to as input into GPT to create a completion to then go ahead and serve as an AI assistant. So absolutely awesome, right? It's a really cool project, right? Someone goes, it's a great joke. I love it. You guys are like loving the jokes. It's cool. Right, so we got the jokes flowing. It's all good. Okay, so at this point, I'm pretty happy with that. Now what we need is the synthesis, so the voice synthesizer and the settings, right? So let's go ahead and implement that. Then we can deploy and we are gold, right? So we're actually smashing it today, doing really well on timing, and we're almost at 300 likes, guys. Smash that like button if you're enjoying this content. And remember, guys, if any of this is tricky, feel free to simply hit the first link in the description, fill out the form that pops up on the screen and get the code for free. Right? I guarantee there's going to be a point where you get a little bit stuck. That's completely fine. That's why I've gone ahead and given you the code for absolutely free. Right? And it also supports the Papa Fam massively. You do not understand. So hit that link for me right now and submit the form, and hit in the comment section afterwards saying I have submitted the form. Okay. Awesome stuff, guys. Right, so now after that, we need it to talk to us. I want, you know, our AI assistant to actually speak back to me. Right, so at this point now, what we can do is go over to our page, and remember at the bottom here, we actually went ahead and did the following. So, oh, also something I didn't do, I want to have a little bit of a ... situation, right? So I want it to say ... like pending kind of style. So how can we do that? So essentially we can go ahead and create like a loader. So I'm going to show you how we do this now. So if I go to, I need to go ahead and go into my messages, and it's actually here that we did it. So messages. Now at the top of my messages length here, so this is where I want it, here. Okay, so I want to have a submit button. Actually, no, I can call it submit button. I can call it like loading message. Let's just call it loading message, right? Yeah, loading message, right? Now we're gonna create it in the code in the GitHub repo. I've called it submit button. So the reason why I called it submit button is because in the documentation in Next.js, it's more of a submit approach. So I think I should, maybe let's call it submit button, right? Submit button. No, we're not gonna call it that. I'm gonna call it loading message, right? So we're gonna say loading message.tsx. I'm gonna create this component. And then now we're gonna go ahead and do, hold on. So in this case, I'm gonna have two things. I'm gonna have a React Spinner library, which I need to install. I'm gonna convert this to a client component. And this is gonna be, we're gonna need two things. So I need to import use form status and React Spinners. So React Spinners, you can install, it's a library online. You can search for it yourself. I'm gonna go ahead and install it here. I'm gonna say npm i React Spinners. So that will install that library for us. Come on, Jay, that should disappear right now. There we go. And then I'm simply going to do a use form status. So remember when we used use form status before for pending state, because this is a child component of a form component, which is then going ahead and using server actions, we then get the updated state inside of our child component. That's why we can use that. And then all we need to do is basically have a beat loader. So this will basically render out like so. So it will say, if it's pending, it'll render out a beat loader with the message style class, and it'll be left aligned, okay? Or margin left or so it'll push to the side. Now, if I go ahead and pop this in, boom. Now guys, check this out. Just like that, if I go ahead and refresh, we can go ahead and see right now. Let's go ahead and give it a try. So if I say, tell me a funny joke about JavaScript. Look at that. Ooh, nice. Oh yeah, where did the JavaScript go broke? Because he lost all his cash. That's pretty cool, actually. That's a good one, right? So in this case, we can say, what is Tailwind CSS? And you can see now we've got a nice little loader. Awesome stuff, right? Why is the sun yellow? Right, and now there you go, boom. And look how, guys, I just want to explain that is unbelievably quick. That's because of Azure. Azure is powering this up, scalable, honestly awesome. Again, if I was to do it again, there may be a little delay because there is a quota of 3 requests per minute with Whisper. So it will maybe wait until the next minute finishes and then it will give me the response. You can increase that quota if you like, but if you're wondering why that's happening to you, that is why. Right, so in this case, look at that, guys, absolutely so fast. It's crazy, like so nice, so quick. Now I just need it to talk to me. Right, so loading message is looking clutch, absolutely awesome. Next up, we need the voice synthesizer. Okay, so we're doing really well for time, actually. This is pretty awesome. Right, so in this case, now we're going to create a voice synthesizer. So let's go ahead and create a component called voice synthesizer.tsx, RFCE that. So we've created our voice synthesizer, and inside of the page, this is going to use I think it's called the web speech API. So we're actually going to be using we've already used the MediaStream Recording API to go ahead and actually record audio. And now we're using the web speech API to synthesize. The dots may look better in white. Yes, I agree with you actually for the loader. So we can actually go to loading message and simply do text white to override it. And let's see now. Hello world. Okay, so beat loader is actually here. You can do color white. Who are you? Okay, there you go. Nice little suggestion there. There you go. Nice white. Right, great stuff. I agree with you. See, guys, I do listen to you. Right, Dennis, good suggestion. Right, so at that point now, we're gonna go ahead and create the voice synthesizer. So let's go ahead and pop this in here. So boom, voice synthesizer, like so. Right, now the voice synthesizer is actually going to take two things. It's going to take the state, which we're going to pass through, and it's also going to take a component called display settings, right? And this is actually responsible. So if we go to my production version and I click this, the display settings are actually going to pop up like so, right? So it's going to be able to allow me to do the following, right? So this is actually going to be important for the final thing. So in this case, display settings will be passed through like so. Oops, display settings. And we don't have this right now. The state we have, because that's being passed through from use form state right here. But for display settings, we just need to simply create a piece of state over here like so, boom. And all we're going to do here is when we click on the header icon, so this header icon, the settings icon there, all we're going to do is toggle it. Okay, so we're going to create an on click and we're going to say set display settings to whatever it is, the opposite of it. So a bang at the front, and then there you go. So it'll be the opposite of whatever it is. Okay, so and then we can basically render out whatever's in here through that, right? So for the state right now, we need to go in here and we need to pass those two props inside, right? So voice synthesizer. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop those two in with the type definition. So we've got the state and the display settings. And then for the type definitions, we have the state and the display settings, which is display settings, simple Boolean. For the state itself, it's actually going to be sender and response. Okay. And I guess you can have ID as well, right? But in this case, I'm not too fussed about that. I'm not going to use a lot of that, right? So now we're going to focus on the actual settings itself. So at this point, what I need is if we're displaying the settings, so I'm going to say if display settings, then we're going to render out the UI. Else, we're not going to actually show anything on the screen, right? So, because I don't actually think I do. Yeah, I don't show anything on the screen. So I'm going to say there's a div. Well, actually, okay, so we're going to put React fragments, and inside we're going to have a bunch of things. So I'm going to say div and a p tag, which just says, like, let's just start off with a voice. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm essentially building out this form. So we got the voice, the pitch, the speed, the volume. Okay, and that's going to modify the voice. 250 likes, let's go, guys. Absolutely crushing it. Hope you guys are enjoying the stream so far. All right, so we got the voice there. So I'm just going to do save now and show you. So if we click this, there you go. So you see how it popped up a little bit? So that means that it is actually showing the settings there. So we're going to go ahead and style this a little bit more so you can see that. So ignore my Grammarly. So I'm going to go ahead and say flex column. So flex column. Items should be centrally aligned. So we're just going to do a little hack here. Centrally aligned. Everything text should be white. And now you should see voice, right? There you go, right? Now, I'm going to populate things here to save us a little bit of time. But the first thing is the voice is going to be this right there. So we've got the voice. And then we've got a select field. Now, the select field has got a bunch of things around it. But essentially, we're going to be using the window object quite a lot. So firstly, if we're using anything from the window, we have to make this a client component. Otherwise, server components don't have access to the window object because it's rendered on the server. So there is no window, right? So we have to make sure it's a client component. And then we're going to go ahead and say a select field. So for the select field, this is going to be this one right here. And all of this comes from the Windows speech synthesis function, right? So in this case, we've got the p tag and we're going to say select. Oh, this is a banger, right? We're going to say select. And inside of this, we're going to have all of the different options. Now for the options, I'm going to say window.speech synthesis, right? And you see, we don't have to even install anything here, right? This is built into your actual native browser, right? So we're going to say .map. And then for every single voice, I'm going to go ahead and implicitly render out an option, right? So in this case, an option like so. Okay, so the key is voice.name, value is voice.name, and the voice.name is actually what we're going to see. That's perfect. And if we do that right now, what you should see is, let's let it load for a second. I show the thing here. Now, sometimes I have found that it can be a bit weird. Yeah, there you go. So in this case, Eddie, but the styling's a bit weird, but in this case, Daniel. Okay, so I'm going to style this out a little bit. So you can go ahead and pause this if you want to really look into what I've styled here. But in short, it's just a bunch of styling that makes it look pretty. So again, you can feel free to just pause that and look at it. But that's essentially all I've done is I've changed it to look like that. Okay. And then we actually need to keep a piece of state to track what I'm selecting, right? So in order to do that for the select here, what we do is we basically create a piece of state to track the value. So the value here is actually going to be the voice name. So what I can do here is I can actually show you at the top. So we're going to have a set handle voice change. One second. That's actually for handle voice change. Okay, so we need to keep a piece of state to track that. So at the top of the file, we're gonna have a piece of state to track the voice, and this is casted to a speech synthesis voice type. So here we're gonna have the value of the select field is value voice name. Okay, and then we're gonna handle the change accordingly. So when you change the value of that drop down field, we're gonna trigger something called handle voice change. Okay, so this function right here is going to be a function that we have to write. So we're going to say const handle voice change. and this is going to take a event. And now there's a little trick here, guys. So if you don't know what the type is here, what you do is you basically go ahead and do an E like so, and then you just hover over this and you can infer it. So you see change event HTML select element, boom, get that back. Now we just pop that in there, and that's such a nice little hack if you didn't know. Right, I do it all the time, and it's like a little golden rule just to infer types, which I find really handy in a lot of situations. Okay, so if you didn't know that, smash the like button, right? And then we're going to go ahead and say const voices equals window.speech synthesis, get voices. And I'm simply going to say get the voice that I've selected. Get the voice that I've selected. So the value of what we put in. I mean, at this level, could I not just use the e.target value? No, that's a string value. Okay. Yeah, so we have to actually match it up to the voice itself, right? So that's what we're doing is. So basically we're getting the text value, right? And then we're basically filtering through the actual list of voices, getting the actual selected voice back, which is an object of this type. And then we set that to the actual voice. So set that to the voice because we need to use that. Okay. So this is going to be a voice. Sorry. If there is no voice, if there is this one's going to be, this is if voice. If there is no voice, then we're going to return. So a bit of defensive programming. Someone goes, I learned this little trick 3 days ago or so. God, dude, I'm telling you, I taught this trick so long ago inside the Zero to Full Stack Hero. So this is what I'm saying. Zero to Full Stack Hero, we teach this kind of stuff, and it really saves you in a lot of situations. I promise you, right? So someone goes, sorry, Sonny, I'm late. No worries. Oh, don't worry, dude. It's all good. And then we set the voice like so. Okay, there we go. Boom. Right. So we got the handle voice change up and running. That's nice. So that's our first thing done. Right. So that's actually down. So if we try it out, there you go. Boom. And this is setting different voices, and it actually works. Right. Now the next step is we've got the pitch, speed, and volume. So first things first, I'm going to create helper functions for all of them. They're very similar, so I'm not gonna go too far into how long it takes to do every single one, but essentially they all have a piece of state to track what's going on with them. So I'll show you how we do that. So each one will have essentially a piece of state. So we've got pitch, rate, and volume. And then we've got 3 helper functions. And again, you don't need these essentially. You can just go ahead and use them accordingly if you want. Handle pitch basically takes the change event, sets the pitch, and it passes the float number while we do it. Same thing for handle rate change, pass the float, same thing for handle volume change, right? So again, we've just made these helper functions to go ahead and make things a little bit easier. Okay. And I'm going to go underneath the div for the for this div. By the way, I just want to make it clear, we're going to do width fit, so it doesn't kind of expand bigger than it needs to. Outside of this div, we're going to go ahead and pop in a div containing all 3 now of the other ones. So this, we can basically say class is flex, and it's going to have a padding on the bottom of 5. Okay. And we're basically going to populate all 3 of the different ones now. So the first one is going to be the pitch. So I'm going to pop the pitch in like so. And you can see, look, the pitch is just a p tag. The range is from 0.5 to 2 with a step of 0.1. And the value is the pitch, and then you handle pitch change, and the accent purple 500 lets it be this color. Okay, so that's how you do that. And then we do the same thing again for the speed and for the volume. So I'm going to paste those in now as well. So basically it's just the same principle, speed and volume, like so. Okay, so you can pause the video there, have a look, and that will go ahead and give us this, right? So great stuff. Now the reason why I think I did it before, so if I go back to messages, I did 32 now, I understand, because I didn't want it like that. So I did it like this. So initially it looks like that, and then it covers the settings when you do it. Okay, so now this is actually correctly doing what it needs to do. Now the important part here is, how do we make it talk? Okay, so this is actually a lot easier than you might think, right? So now what we do is, the voice is actually totally independent. So independent from the action itself of the response coming back. Remember, when the server action completes, it gives us back state, which we then use to update the messages inside of a use effect. Now, what we can actually do is, when the state changes, whenever it changes, we can actually synthesize an artificial voice to just read out wherever the response was from the AI. So that's exactly what we're going to do, right? So at this point now, we've got the messages here. And we're going to go ahead and say firstly, I want to go ahead and have a use effect, which basically, oh no, sorry, I'm in the wrong function. It's voice synthesizer. Yeah. Here, we're going to have we need to create a piece of state to basically store the speech synthesis object. So this is going to be responsible for basically the talking part. Okay. So this is going to be responsible for the talking part. And then what I'm going to do is when the page loads, so we're going to have a use effect. And this is going to be dependent on the window. So the window, because it's a dependency there, so we make sure we've imported the use effect. Now we say set synth to be window.speech synthesis. Okay, so that way, when the window mounts, we've got the speech synthesis like readied into our state, so we can use it. And now what we do, guys, is we basically create a use effect, which just fires off whenever the state changes. So whenever the state changes, and again, you can lift this state into, you know, global state management, Redux, the other one, Stand, all these other stuff. So again, you can do all of those things as well. And we teach all of that inside of Zero to Full Stack Hero. So again, link is in the description for all of that, right? This is such a bang of a track. I done it when I bought my Tesla, right? So we got the use factor. Now, here, what you want to do is you want to say if there is no state response, which is basically whatever the AI would have returned, or there is no synth object, which means we can't actually speak the thing out, then we want to defensively program stop there and basically say like, no, don't carry on execution. Otherwise, carry on. And we're going to say words to say. I'm just simplifying it a lot. So I'm going to say words to say equals, and we're going to say new speech synthesis. And it's called utterance, right? So this is the magic that basically allows us to represent a speech request, right? So what we do is we pass in the state.response, and this will basically have whatever the user will say, right? So what we then do is we get the words to say, and we basically manipulate it with the sliders. So remember we changed the voice, the pitch, the rate, the volume. So we basically apply that to the words to say. And this is actually called utterance, but I've just made it a bit easier. So I'm saying the words to say voice is going to be the voice that we set it to. The words that we're going to say is the pitch is going to be the pitch that we set it to. So, but it's actually called the utterance. And then all you do, guys, is you say synth.speak, and then you pass the words to say, right? And what you want to do is to avoid continuously creating new speech synthesis objects. When you do your cleanup function, so whenever like say the state changed or something, you would want to cancel your old synth object. Okay, and I think what we could do as well is synth.stop. You could actually do, oh, that's not bad, because if you tried talking again, we could do that. We could say synth.pause maybe. I don't know if that's going to break it. Let's try it. Let's try it. I'm going to put that there and we'll see how it works. Okay, but this will work. I'm 100% confident on it, right? So let's refresh and give it a try. So I'm going to mute everything here. I've got my audio up and ready. The voice synthesizer is being rendered out accordingly like this. It looks great on the screen. Okay, we've got everything there. The get microphone bit's ugly, but you can really customize that as much as you want. Sunny seems pretty calm right now. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm pretty calm, chill. Yeah. So at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and just like test it out, final test out, right? So we're going to say, who is the current president of the United States? I don't know why that's my question.
As of September
there you
2021, the current president of the United States is Joe Biden.
Okay, that's cool, works. But I don't like the voice, right? So I'm going to go into my selector. I'm going to go down, and you even got like Spanish and all this other crazy. It actually speaks back in Spanish, right? But let's say, and you even got Hindi as well. But let's say I do Google UK English female, right? And I change the speed a little bit, and I make the pitch a little bit lower, and the volume keep it the same, right? So now we can say something like, tell me a joke about programming. In particular, I want to know a joke about JavaScript. Right, now we let it go. Look at that. Look how fast that was, right? In that case, did I mute? One second. I think I muted it on my bloody deck. Right, let's try it one more time. Let's do, oh no. Okay, it's because of what I thought. It broke it. All right, so I broke it with this synth pause, right? So this is actually going to break it. I think it's, okay, so let's try one more time. Tell me a joke about JavaScript. Okay, so now I've messed it up. So if we do synth dot play, no, so what's the opposite of pause now? Okay, so this is a bit of an annoying thing that you can get into. Synth dot cancel, synth dot speak. I've done this before, so let's resume. Okay, so we have to kind of do a resume here because I've got myself into a corner case where this can happen. So let's just go ahead and say, tell me a funny joke. Okay.
Why did the JavaScript developer go broke? Because he lost his jQuery.
Why did the JavaScript developer go broke? Because he lost all his cache. Sure. Here's a joke for you.
Okay.
Why don't scientists trust atoms?
So the reason
they make up everything.
The reason why that happened was because I paused it and then I resumed it every single time. So what we could go ahead and do a resume and then a synth speak and then you would cancel here. Now, I don't know if this is going to be ideally what we would want though. So, I mean, I'm just going to keep it off and just keep it on the flow. So that way we can't interrupt it if it's working, but that's fine. All right, so let's try it one more time. So I'm going to go ahead, modify the voice to be, let's just say, let's do Google, let's just pick someone, right? Let's just say Arthur. I don't know who this is, right? But they can change the pitch to be a little bit higher. Okay, so what is a MacBook Pro?
A MacBook Pro is a line of laptop computers designed and manufactured by Apple.
There you go.
It is known for its premium build quality.
And I'm going to mute it out afterwards, yeah? But guys, that is literally it. It works, right? Works, speaks to us, does everything we need.
Such as video editing, graphic design, coding, and more.
And there you go. And what's really cool about that is, remember, if I was to change it, it would apply to the next synthesis of the output, right? So that's what I would go ahead and say. So just bear that in mind. But overall, you have literally an AI assistant that takes in input and converts it using the Whisper AI. Like, it's pretty damn cool. I'm going to go ahead and just run through it properly, but I'm just going to read through the chat right now and put a bit of music on. All right, so we've got someone goes, I think Sunny is going to start freaking out. Monique says, thank you for consistently delivering builds of exceptional quality. Your work keeps us at the forefront of the tech. I appreciate that so much. Duranel says, at the moment, I'm quite calm. Oh, nice. Yeah, just chatting away in the chat. Okay, but otherwise, guys, that is banging. That is actually pretty cool. We have a fully responsive, like everything works really nice. The only thing here I don't like is you see the width. That doesn't look good, right? So typically you should never have your width like this. So what I'm going to do is enforce a max width constraint. So where did I put the max width? I've completely forgot. I did it inside of, let's go into our messages component. And I believe I did it where I had the loading messages. I had it here. So where I had the messages.length. Okay, so I actually wrapped everything inside another div here. So around all of this, so wrapped another div, and this div basically will have a max width 3XL and a MX auto, right? So the reason for this is basically, I'll show you now. Tell me a funny joke. Okay, so that's not nice.
Sure.
I don't like that.
Here's a joke for you. Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts.
Right, so I didn't like how it looked there. So what I'm going to do instead is not that. Don't do that. I'm going to take the div and start surrounding from the point where we render the messages, because that's all I care about, right? So that's better now. So if I try this again, tell me a joke about MacBooks, right? And now you can see it applies there.
Why did the MacBook go to therapy?
There you go.
Because it had too many glitches and needed to process its problems.
Okay, I mean, it's crazy dad jokes, but you guys can see for yourself. There you go. So it only wraps around the messages, but that looks a lot better. And typically when you're doing any kind of UX UI work, you want to make sure you've got max width constraints. The headers tend to be maximum width, but your content would tend to be like this flow. And you would see this same approach in a lot of like Facebook, Twitter, all this kind of stuff. And even the bottom footers and headers can be fine. But beyond that, it would basically just go ahead and look at that. Like, it's so nice, seamless, works really well. And if we go ahead and see again, the animation here, look, it goes black when it's thinking. So now I can go ahead and say something like, who is Tim Cook? And you see, look, it's black.
Tim
and I
Cook
can't even
is
click
the
it.
CEO of Apple Inc. He succeeded Steve Jobs as CEO of Apple in 2011.
And there you go. That's really cool, guys. And you can go ahead and add that onto your portfolio and demonstrate that. I think it's an awesome showcase for what you can do with Next.js 14, all this other stuff. But right now, more importantly so, we're going to go ahead and deploy that. Now, again, remember, if you deploy on Vercel's free plan, any cloud function, which includes things like server actions, if it exceeds 10 seconds, it can time out, which means you need to upgrade your Vercel plan to the paid tier. Now, again, as I mentioned before, guys, if any of this was tricky in today's build, it's all going to be timestamped, but all of the code is available in the first link in the description. So the first link in the description, you have access to everything, the GitHub code repo. All you need to do is hit that link in the description. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it in right now. So Jay, if you can send me that link again, I think I've lost it, but basically the first thing is, I've got it already. Yep. So if you go to the first link in the description, you'll see this, pop in your details, everything that you need, click submit. And then what you'll see is this screen right here. So you'll get through and you get the GitHub code repo, boom, go ahead and do a git clone. And then you can go ahead and actually work straight off of this. Now I'm going to update this code maybe with the latest bit of stuff, which is completely cool. So you guys can see exactly what I did. But to be honest with you, it's not very different from the code I submitted. So it's all good. But otherwise, yeah, that's absolutely sick. So let's go ahead and deploy this thing and then we're good to go. So I just want to go ahead and iterate. I'll tell you at the end, actually, we'll go through that. So let's deploy this. So first things first, we're going to do it with the Vercel CLI. So I've actually gone ahead and already installed the Vercel CLI. So I'm going to just type in Vercel, hit enter, and you can see if I'm not logged in, it will actually prompt me to log in. But in this case, I've already done that. So I'm going to click yes. Then it will ask me which team. In this case, I just want to do my default team. Link to an existing project, nope. So hit enter. Project name, I can keep it default by okay, that's all good. And the initial build will fail because I have not put in my environment variables. But in this case, which directory is your code located? Yes, just hit enter for now, it's all good. And then we can click on setting up project. And you see it uploads all my code, including the GIFs and everything, which is why it's a little bit larger. And then modify the settings. Nope, I haven't actually deployed this one, so this is a live deployment, right? And you can see inspect, right? So what I want you to do is click on the inspect, and we're going to do a little trick here, which I like to show you every time. So once you've got the Vercel dashboard open, click on your build at the top right over here, click on settings, go down to environment variables, and you'll see we don't have any environment variables, which is going to be a problem, right? It needs these environment variables to go ahead and work. So at this point, I'm going to go into my environment variables and I'm going to open it. Now, you thought I was going to slip there, but right now, essentially what you're going to do, I'm just going to hide the screen there. So you want all of these variables, copy them. All right, so copy it. Obviously, you're going to have your API key. I've blanked it out right now. So I'm going to copy everything, copy it all. And then I want you to go into your Vercel and paste, right? So I'm going to just see if it shows everything. Okay, so I'm not going to show you all of it, but basically, there you go. I've moved it out. So paste. So literally click it and do a command V and it will just paste into the fields. It's quite a nice little trick by Lee Robinson when he showed it on the Vercel. The Vercel team obviously implemented that. Now, after you've done this, you can go ahead and click save. So I'm going to go ahead and undelete this one and then hit save. So boom, hit save. And now it's added the environment variables to my project, right? So in this case, if I go back to my build, my terminal, you see it will fail, which is fine. That's okay. Now we can go ahead and do the Vercel deployment step again, and we can go ahead and check it out. Now we can see if this would have broken. Now this could have broken for many reasons, by the way. It could have broken from many TypeScript inconsistencies, anything like that at all, which I might have not even noticed before. So in this case, you can simply go into it and just check your deployment logs. But Vercel is constantly upgrading, doing their thing. So it's pretty cool in what you can do. So at this point, let it do its thing. And again, while it's doing that, we can go ahead and check out, like I said before, just go ahead and let me know right now, whoever's watching this in the live stream, who's downloaded that GitHub repo, right? So let me know, submit that form. It really does help the Papa Fam elevate because it tells Microsoft that our followers are interested in the stuff that we're sharing. So go ahead, hit that link, fill out that form, download that repo and benefit. And again, if you go ahead and actually click that link, you also get 1 year of the popular services for 12 months. So what am I saying? Oh my God, my brain is mush. You get all the popular services from Microsoft Azure free for 12 months. There we go. I don't know what's going on. And then you get a head start with $200 worth of Azure credit. So that's going to help you out a ton. And the best part is you just hit the first link and you get all of that for free. Okay. Someone goes, damn, when did Next.js version 8 billion something come out? I know. It's constantly moving, but that's why, again, we have 0 to Full Stack Hero, where I can teach you everything that I know. And remember, guys, honestly, you can catch up to 50% off right now. And the St. Patrick's Day sale is now live. Head over to papareact.com/course. If you're watching the replay of this, it's all good. So someone goes, Sunny sweating again. No, I'm not. I'm all good, dude. I'm all good. We're good, right? So I want to see you inside here so I can go ahead and elevate your skill set. And this is some students of ours, you know, absolutely crushing it inside of the course and community. We have real students, real examples, honestly, our students are amazing. The community is the best thing I've ever built in my life. So this is what we aim to achieve, right? So make sure you guys go ahead, check it out. Get a snag on that sale if you can while it's live. Now, here, window is not defined. So we've got a couple of errors over on our build step. So this is actually down to okay, so I probably haven't actually React hook using an unnecessary dependency window, either exclude it, blah, blah, blah. So voice synthesizer has an unnecessary dependency. So let's go ahead and clear that up. So voice synthesizer is saying we don't need the window. Okay, that's fine. We can get rid of that. Now we can actually test this locally by saying, we can do a local build here, guys, of saying Vercel build. Right, and this will actually build it locally, and we can do Vercel pull. So yes, and this will actually pull the environment variables and use them to build against it. So I would recommend, if you want to do that, you can do it this way. So Joe Script says, Sonny, you need to talk about your journey as a developer. I actually really appreciate that. So what I would recommend is, Jay, write that down on the vlog list. And if you guys are interested in vlogs, I'm pushing the vlogs heavy right now. So I will definitely make a video on my journey as a developer if you're interested. There you go. So it built past that step. Okay, so we're now going to do Vercel one more time. And then you see it built pretty quick as well. So let's see if that works now. Let's go to our inspect, and we should be all clear now. So live debugging in its finest form, right? And this is one thing I want to show you guys, and even in the vlogs, yeah, right? Like, one thing I'm trying to do my best of is I want to show you the more raw stuff, right? Too many tutorials now are perfect tutorials. It's not the reality. Nothing in the dev world happens that way ever. If you're watching like the channel for a while, you'll know that that's just the case. So I like to show you the raw stuff when I get stuck, when I don't try and do things before sometimes, or I do it actually the first time ever on a live stream, which is mad stressful, but it's good because you guys get to see and benefit from me getting stuck. And that's exactly how I coach inside the 0 to Full Stack Hero. So sometimes I will literally address a brand new topic without ever doing it myself. So if I get stuck, our students live in a coaching call will see that, and all of that is available to you at papareact.com/course. So honestly, game changer stuff, and we find that it works and our students benefit the most from it, right? Missing dependencies: pitch, rate, synth, voice, and volume. So we should actually be adding that. Yes, that's actually a very good point. Wow, I made a big mistake there. So in the use effect here, yes, okay, that's good. So we should be using everything that is dependent here. So really we should have like voice, pitch, yeah. So those you want to be adding in. And then, okay, then it built it out. So let's go ahead and check it out if it worked. So we're going to go to visit this site. And again, if this doesn't work, it's okay. It's fine. It's just because it would have been, so permission, get microphone. Let's try it out. Oops. Okay. Whoa. What happened there? Let's go to my actual app. Here we go. Oh, it's on the staging environment. Okay, so if I allow the microphone, boom, we get the microphone. Dismiss the toolbar. I don't want to see the toolbar right now for Vercel. How do I move that? How do I move that thing? Oh, damn it. I like it. Disable for session. There you go. Okay, cool. Start a conversation. So that firstly, we've got our, there we go. And if I type in, what is the color of the sky? Right, and the reason why it wasn't loading there is because the first time, so that could be a bit of an issue.
Vary depending on the time of day and weather conditions.
Okay.
During a clear day, the sky appears blue. However,
there you go.
It can also appear gray,
works, right?
Orange, red.
And I want to do a quick answer next time, so you're going to see it, right?
Sunset, or when there are certain atmospheric conditions.
What is 5 plus 5? Right, so in this
sum
case,
of 5 plus
there you go.
5 is 10.
Now, the only thing I noticed there was my loader was across to the side. So again, a little quick fix for that. Head over to messages, boom. And the only thing that we would need to do there really is honestly pop the loader inside of the the loading message set. So in that case, now if we do a redeployment, it will push to that and we're all good to go. So at that point, what I would do is I would do Vercel --prod to push a build straight to production, and then you can do it. But I wouldn't really do that, to be honest with you, but yeah, right now I'm pretty confident that's going to work. I just want to mention as well, let's go through the chat while it's happening. So CRC says, look after your health, you're a real blessing. Have joined your course when it just came out, could not code anything at all. I'm now done with learning React and starting with Next.js. Thank you. Dude, that is awesome. That is so sick. Thank you. Jay, screenshot that. Screenshot that right now. That is absolutely sick, man. Yo, that's huge. I love comments like that. They honestly make my entire day. Massive. Thank you so much. Right, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit save on that, and I will push this latest code to the GitHub repo as well, so you guys get the absolute exact code that I have here as well, because I changed a couple of things. And yeah, let's just see right now if it deployed. Production, it's building still as well. I don't really want to expose the live URL because I know everyone's going crazy on that once it's done, but you can see it's built out. Oh, I didn't save the file. Pitch rate, synth files, and volume, either that has missing dependencies. Okay, so I made a little mistake there. I should have had it inside of my use effect. Where did I not have it in use effect? Voice pitch rate synth. Okay, interesting. So I mean, I guess I just didn't. Oh no, it just promoted my other one to production. I don't think it actually pushed it like live again. Let's try again anyway. So get microphone, allow, boom. And now again, the GIF is going to be a bit of an annoying. Oh, Abo, yo, what is up, dude? Another $10 donation. Thank you so much, man. $30 he's donated. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you so much. Right, at this point, if I go ahead and type in, like if I hit this, you see it will load that Giphy, but now I'm talking. So this is going to be part of the input. So it's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and just continue. So what's your name, assistant? And then you see like it popped it in there. So that's a bit annoying. I wouldn't want it there.
So I don't have a personal name. You can just call me assistant. How can I assist you today? At
this point, to be honest with you, I'm not that phased with it. I would just have the loading message where we previously had it. I would constrain it with a max width, max MX water as well. You can do this in a number of ways. You can either do it there, you can do it there as well. It's completely cool. Honestly, mess around with it however you want. Let me just do it this way. Very hacky way right there. All right, but there you go. Anyway, there you go. That's how you do it. And boom, there we have it, guys. Looks sick, works the way we expect it. If I go to my local host version, just so we can go ahead and demo it out for the final finale. Another one. Yeah. There we go. Awesome stuff. Didn't know this was happening today. Gonna have to come back to this and run it from the start. Yeah, you know what? My bad. I was actually really quick on this one to move. So let's try one more time. What is the weather like in Australia? Right, so in this case, boom, that looks much better. I like that. I cannot answer that because it varies greatly. Okay, what is the typical weather in Australia? See, look, boom, there you go. And that's much nicer. So now we fixed that bug. You can redeploy and it would be golden. Again, to redeploy it all, you could go ahead and do the same step. You know, Vercel --prod, and then boom, that would be on live on production, and boom, you have it. There you go. That's how you do a AI assistant. Now I'm going to go ahead and wrap up with the only way we know how to do it. So as I mentioned, guys, before, a little quick demo of the entire app that we built today. We went ahead and built out a full-blown, let me go ahead and where the hell was my build? Yeah, we went ahead and built out a full-blown AI assistant app. It was pretty cool. Someone goes, it's okay, Sunday anyway, don't have time to put in today, Monday's coding. Yes, check it out tomorrow, dude. Absolutely, it's going to be up on the channel. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this, guys. We built a full AI assistant today. Absolutely crazy stuff, you know, completely mobile responsive. Really awesome project to add to your portfolio. And the best thing about this is the way it works. So this entire app does some pretty cool things. I'm going to go ahead and draw it on the screen right now. If I can get my screen brush to work. Yeah, so in this case, there we go. So right now we have the voice coming in. So we have our voice coming in, and then the voice will get transcribed with the Whisper API. So we have the Whisper AI service from Azure. So we have Azure's Whisper AI service. This turns it into text. So this turns it into text. So we've basically transcribed our audio from voice into text, and then we turn the text into we push the text as input into the Azure OpenAI Service. Okay, so this is actually going to be the OpenAI GPT completion service, right? And then this will return the response, which is this, right? So this is then the response. And all of this is using things like server actions. So we're using server actions in Next.js 14. So this is an awesome feature of Next.js 14. So I'm just gonna write it out so you guys can see for yourself. All this is using like Next.js 14. We've got amazing little tricks and tips throughout the entire build today. And yeah, there's so much that you can learn from this. And just truthfully, it's a very cool project to add to your portfolio. And lots of little different tips and tricks. But I want to go ahead and just highlight everything as well that we did. So a few other things that we did today is we used the, to go ahead and capture the audio, we used the MediaStream API. So this is the MediaStream API. And then to actually voice it out, to speak out the sort of, you know, whatever was said here, we used the web speech API. So lots of things happening in today's build. And on top of that, yeah, the whole thing was styled with Tailwind, and we built it in a scalable way. So this is now deployed onto Vercel. And as I showed you guys, it is incredibly fast. And all of this is available in the code base for absolutely free that I've dropped in the first link in the description. You can check it out yourself. Joe Script said, yeah, I also got into Next.js because it's funny. Back in the days, I used to watch him and Kazi live stream together. That was awesome. Yeah, man, I appreciate you so much. And I hope you enjoy the content that's coming on the channel more and more. And if you guys found this difficult, as I mentioned before, dropping a big ass, dropping a big old St. Patrick's Day sale right now on the channel. So you go ahead and check it out yourself. But as always, guys, it's been an awesome build, and I hope to see you in the next video. I'm going to be pushing bigger than ever on this channel, so we've got loads of builds coming. I've got another one coming this week. I've got another vlog dropping tomorrow. Oh, there's so much happening lately. So thank you guys for being awesome. Road to 300K is on the way. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you so much, Abo. Thank you so much, Papa Fam, for joining in the chat. It was absolutely awesome. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next video. Peace. Awesome build. Subscribe, like, and yeah. See you in the next one, guys. Peace.